sure after the gala last night if anyone would actually make it today. I thought I was going to be here by myself, but it's great to be here, and it's great to be at the conference. I feel really lucky, to have found the group. It was sort of happenstance, one of these things that happened a few weeks ago. So I've been thrilled about it. So can I talk a little bit today about creativity? And after the presentations yesterday and the projects that we heard about, I think that talking to this group about creativity is a little bit like bringing sand to the beach. But that's what I said that I was going to talk about, so I've got to do it, right? And I want to, I'm going to go through the presentation fairly quickly and then leave time for discussion because I think that's when the really interesting stuff comes out. So. The first question I wanted to ask, I like to know who I'm talking to. So how many people in the audience have engineering backgrounds? How about designers or artists or creative types? The AV guy? and his friend. Okay. And students? Any students? Few students, okay. Business people or entrepreneurs? All right, so it could overlap with the engineers and physicians. Couple. All right, thank you. So I told you guys a little bit about, or you told me about yourselves, so I'll tell you a little bit about myself. People always ask, and some people have asked even here, which I was surprised about, but I will say I am Egyptian. I get the Italian thing or the Hispanic thing, but I was born in New York, and spent most of my life in New York, but recently, 3 years ago, moved to Seattle when I started doing this job at Microsoft. So after yesterday, I was really, I think like many of us, was so inspired by the presentations. But unlike most of you, I actually go back and redo my presentation based on what I heard, because I realized that I wanted to talk about something that was going to be relevant, and I didn't want to come in with a bunch of examples that weren't going to be really relevant to the topic at hand. So that's why usually I don't refer to my notes ever, but today I'm going to. So I think that one of the things that is, we're talking about creativity, right? And so I love this quote from Buckminster Fuller. The idea of creating something that doesn't just challenge the old model, but creates a totally new model, I think is an inspiring idea. And we really do live in a golden age of creativity. I mean, I think that there's more creative opportunity today than any other time in history. And that's a pretty amazing thing when you think about it. But what is creativity? Creativity is about making new stuff, right? But it's about making stuff that makes stuff change as well, right? And that's the thing that is so exciting about what we heard yesterday, is that these are people who are actually looking at change, right? And sorry for the paper shuffling. So change can be about changing someone's mind. It can be about changing someone's life. It can be about changing your own life. It can be about changing a government or a society. And I think that that's really what we're here to talk about, right? Changing a society in the wake of a very surprising change of a government. And being in technology, I know a bit about change, right? We change all the time. I mean, our business is defined by change, and it's usually very fast and usually unexpected. And so I wanted to share a model that we use in talking about in talking about our business and what we do. And BXT is basically the idea that any great product or service is based on a viable business, right? Built on feasible technology, but then unified by an incredible experience, right? And that's the hard part. The experience is sort of the X factor. It's the thing that holds it together, and it's the thing that really makes a difference and has that hook. So when you get that right, I'm in brand strategy, right? And so when you get this right over and over again, you build a brand. And when I say brand, being conscious of the fact that I'm speaking to so many people who have engineering and technical background, I'm not talking about the commercials that you see on television, right? That's part of it, but that's not really, that's not the point. And you also might think about a product that you love, that you use all the time, you have a relationship with. But I'm not really talking about that either. I'm not talking about the product that you might be crazy about, right? Even though, you know, that's nice to have a brand that people feel so strongly about that they want to get it tattooed on their arm. I'm talking about things like this, right? We're all together here talking about a brand called Egypt, right? And it's a very interesting brand. It's an ancient brand, but it's a brand that always is relevant in every age, right? You can go back through history, and there's always been something about this brand that has been meaningful. You know, and it's a great brand because it's not like any other brand out there. It's a totally unique brand, which is something that, as a brand person, you always want something that's different, right? You're always working to find something that's different. And with Egypt, you actually have something that is inherently, intrinsically different. But it's also, you know, another characteristic of a great brand is great brands bring people together, right? They're a unifier. They're an attractor that bring people together. And if you look at this conference, you can see that actually this is a conference that brought people together to talk about this thing, right? But I want to get back to the topic at hand. Because the brand that we're talking about creativity and change, right? Because while we have a brand that is a hot property, you could say, you know, it's also a brand that has some challenges. And so I want to talk about, you know, I had Buckminster Fuller up there before, and this is actually a quote from my old business partner, who always said, if you can't fix it, feature it, right? So if you have something that's a problem, turn it into a strength, right? And I think that that's one of the things that's so great about living in this age of creativity, is that you always have the possibility, you always have the potential of taking anything that's a weakness and turning it into a strength. And that could sound a little bit hollow, I think, without an example. So I want to give you an example. Kenya in 2007, at the end of the year, they had elections. It didn't go particularly well. Very evenly split and contested, and there was violence. That basically 1,300 people were killed in a matter of weeks. 600,000 people lost their homes, right? And we're actually seeing it again in Kenya. There, you know, been following the news in the last few weeks. There's been the risk that was going to happen again. And so a group of programmers in Nairobi got together and built this site, Ushahidi, right? And you know, if you don't know, Swahili is 40% based on Arabic, Shahid, right? This is testimony. And the idea of the site was very simple. Anybody with a cell phone, with SMS, could post incidents of violence, right? Where violence happened. And they created a map of all the violent areas in the country and all of the things that were happening, which enabled them to send people in to intervene. But that's not the interesting part of the story. The interesting part of the story is that these guys got together, and after they had done this in Kenya, they actually productized that offering, and they put it out there. And this became a platform that in 2010, with the earthquake in Haiti, was used for doing disaster relief in Haiti. Later that year, it was used for doing disaster relief after the earthquake in Chile. It's been used to monitor wildfires in Russia, snowstorms in Washington, D.C., crime in India, recovery efforts after the Japanese earthquake, the revolution in Libya, flooding in Australia and in Missouri, gang violence in the south side of Chicago, and unrest, most recently in Armenia. So that's pretty amazing, huh? I mean, it's like, you know, this thing that happens in 2008, this response, within, you know, 2 years, it's being used by relief workers in Haiti. How does that happen? Right? Is it, you know, is there an MIT in Nairobi that nobody here has heard about that is putting out like, you know, incredible technology solutions that, you know, are rivaling things that are coming out of Silicon Valley? The answer is no. This isn't about the technology, right? This is about the fact that they got together and they used existing technology to address an immediate need that they had, right? And it was the application of the technology that was the thing that was the innovation, right? And that's where the real creativity is now. That's where the real innovation is. A few months ago, I was at a conference, and I met one of the founders of this social venture called NEGMA, which is also an SMS solution, but they provide information to health workers. And the amazing thing, when I was getting ready for this talk, and I went and I was looking at Medic Mobile, and I love this, their technology strategy. 4 things: make use of existing tools, develop new tools only when needed, focus on familiar technology that has maximum reach, and remain flexible and mission driven, right? What's the mission? Focus on that. Don't focus on the tools. And I think that that's a really great, sort of technology strategy for anyone who's working in really any business. But particularly, for organizations that are mission driven and are resource restrained. Because again, it really is this idea of the BXT, right? The business side of it is figuring out what the needs are and how you're going to get the resources to solve those needs. The technology side of it is figuring out what the tools are that are available first, and then how do you build the tools that aren't yet available. And the experience side is about the people and the experience that they're going to have working with your product or service. And that's the thing that we tend to forget, right? That's the thing that people don't focus on. And I talked before about turning weaknesses into strengths, but I think one of the things that you also have to keep in mind, there's bad news there too, which is that strengths can become weaknesses. We're probably 75% engineers in this room. One of the things about, I work with a lot of engineers, trust me. One of the weaknesses of the engineering mindset is that people tend to forget that human factor. They tend to discount that human factor in favor of the technology side. Or if it's an engineer who happens to have an MBA, then they can say, oh yeah, the business side too, right? But, so there's a tool, speaking of using tools that already exist, in prepping for this, I found this site that basically was done by the Gates Foundation and IDEO. And it's HCD Connect. HCD is human-centered design. And this is basically a site that has tools, including this incredible toolkit on human-centered design. It basically has things that, it's a freely downloadable toolkit that has resources for people to think about getting user information, getting, the insight into what people actually need and how you can deliver it in a way that is going to provide that experience that is going to make things really powerful. So I'm really excited to be here. I think I'm leaving today with a lot of optimism that groups like this are going to come together and really use the power of that passion we have for this brand of Egypt and show the rest of the world how it's done. So thank you very much. I'm happy to take questions or have a discussion about this or anything else. Great.
I'm thinking about creativity again when it comes to differentiating creativity on the technical level or policy level. My name is Sharif, and is that too high? Too loud? So the question was, I'm trying to think of creativity through different layers. So what do we need, for example, to be creative on a technical level, or what do we need to be creative on a marketing level, in that sense? Do you think that the technical background is necessary, or do you think that it's something that just comes through partnership?
You're saying for an individual or for an organization?
Well, that's mainly part of the question. Is it something that you can create through an organization simply by choosing the right people, or is it just fostering the right culture? What do you think? Because sometimes individuals on their own may not be creative, so I'm trying to think, if you put them together, how come we end up with creative organizations, or people on their own may not be? What is the secret behind that?
I mean, it's the biggest question in business. It's the biggest question in the world. Is how do you foster creativity? I have my own ideas, which are basically that I think when I think about, it's easier for me to think about what are the organizations that don't have creativity, because I don't know, but it's not the same thing. The absence of creativity isn't creativity. So the organizations I've worked in that don't have creativity tend to have some common features, right? They tend to be extremely structured. they tend to be extremely risk averse. And they tend to have they have rules in place that foster bad habits, right? So incentive structures and other things that foster bad habits. And a lot of, I mean, for me, the whole thing about creativity is basically getting rid of bad habits, right? Because your bad habit is just the ideas you have in your head about the way things are, because that's the way things have always been, right? And so a lot of it is just kind of like, that's why it's so exhilarating to work in a creative field. It's why it's so exciting, because you're always undoing things that are, you know, just that way because that's the way that they are, not because that's the way that they need to be or the way that they should be. So. Yes, sir.
Good morning. If I may comment to his question, or I believe that everyone can become creative by experiencing to find always more than one solution when trying to tackle an issue or solve a problem. Never take the first one and say, that's it, I've done it, I'm done. Rather go for the second and third, even if the first one was good enough, because this makes you always feel the beauty of believing in more solutions, and makes your mind get used to creativity and practice it.
Yes.
Thank you, if I may say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's one of the big problems. I see it all the time. People fall in love with the first idea. Yeah. Always. You know.
Sorry, so we have time for one more question.
Sure.
So.
Good morning. Just as much as you're talking about creativity, you can start, say, an organization, an entity, a corporation with very creative ideas, but over time, it gets stale. And that's one of the examples. For example, is the car industry. You know, and just as much, you can take on a stalled organization and turn it around into a very creative situation. So it's really not a one-way street. There is some kind of circularity there. And I'm not sure even that there are ways of predicting any cyclical movement or anything like that. I guess I'm not sure whether it is random or whether you are into this up to your ears. What are your thoughts on this?
I am into it up to my ears. Yeah, one of the enemies of creativity is success. I mean, you know, if you have, if you know, you need a motivation, right? I mean, why do you know, like great artists who basically, you know, you go and you've got your art and you do your art, and then all of a sudden you're going to galleries and people are, you know, writing about you in the newspaper, and you're making a lot of money, and you're, you know, what you lose it a little bit, right? People are, you know, companies are like people, and basically you get to a certain level of success, and you don't need it anymore, and you lose the passion for it. So it's one of the things that, you know, again, weaknesses into strengths. You know, that's I mean, certainly for us, I mean, Microsoft has gone through a major change in the last 6 months, and it's because there was a crisis of relevance. You know, we've had phenomenally successful business. I mean, we still have a phenomenally successful business, but we have problems with this relevance question up against Google and Apple and other companies that have been coming after us. And we've had to change, and we've had to get better. You know, I wouldn't have gone to Microsoft 5 years ago. I went when I went because it was interesting. It was an interesting problem. So, thank you for the question.
All right, I think we can manage one more question.
You mentioned brand, and to me, brand is simply information. It's a signal to the market or to a group of people.
Right.
And I was wondering if you could comment on what can be done to change what is wrong right now with Egypt's brand, at least in this country, if not in Egypt as well?
You know, Egypt is. I have. You know, I mean, you all have friends who don't like to go to other places. You know, like they basically like. I've got a good friend. You know, he doesn't leave his house, right? He's used to people coming to his house to see him. And Egypt is like that, right? Egypt basically is a place that is. You know, people have been coming for thousands of years, right? Since Herodotus, people have been coming. You know, to had tourism in Egypt. Now there's no tourism. Right? So it's kind of like, I think Egypt, one of the biggest things is that we, this community needs to take the story out, and it was amazing. I mean, I wasn't there, for January 25th. I was in Seattle watching it on TV, and wow, really got people's attention. I mean, that was a big, people want to see what's going to happen. There's a lot of attention. And when you have, the great thing about brands is that people pay attention. When something happens with a great brand, people watch, and there's a great opportunity right now for shifting the conversation about what's happening in Egypt, to bring in, to follow up what's going on now with some real progress. It's a story people want to hear. It's a story people need to hear. I don't know if that was quite the answer.
Good morning. Good question. You mentioned that today is a good time for innovations. Everyone you talk to, they think that we've reached the limits. Where do you think the next area where entrepreneurs can attack or intervene? Thank you.
I don't know. Have we reached a limit? I feel like we haven't. I feel like I'm exhausted by it all. Like it's just like every, it feels like every 2 weeks there's something new that's happening. The main thing about the main point about innovation today is, and this is what I was trying to get at, is that it's not about the technology. It's about the application of the technology. And we're one of the things that is interesting, again, about working in the business that I work in is that it was always like, in the future, you will be able to talk to the wall, and the wall will tell you what is, you're going to have for breakfast, and that you need to go and get milk from the store, and all that nonsense. Well, that's not the way that it works, right? The way that it works is that the market basically realizes that something is good. Right? Like my friend here with his iPad. He loves his iPad, right? And that's just because that's you. So, basically, the market figures out that something is great, and then it gets picked up. And so we tend to talk about like, oh, yeah, that's a marketing guy, or that's a product guy, or that's a, whatever, But really, everything now is about marketing and distribution of the technology that's there. That's the main thing. Is we have the technology. Right? And we have the need, but getting this to that in a way that makes sense, that's the big thing that's coming up, right? Because, when we talk about the next billion, we talk about, it's a distribution problem. It's basically, I think, for me, that's the thing. And there will be innovations, obviously, in healthcare and energy and communications, the way that there always is. But that isn't, that's just technology. Well, thank you very much.
So, thank you, Michael, for such an interesting presentation. So what's the difference between process evaluation and impact evaluation? And how do organizations choose their measures? Can evaluation be done internally, or it should be outsourced? How these information that get collected through the evaluation be used in improving the performance of organizations? We will learn about these answers for these questions and even more from Claire Walsh, She is specialized in development economics and public and NGO management, and she works in Jameel Poverty Action Lab at MIT. Before working in JPAL, she worked for nonprofit NGOs in East Africa for improving the quality of youth education and employment opportunities. And so, welcome, Claire. Yes, she's here.
Hi everyone, I'm Claire Walsh. I'm so honored to be here today. Thank you for having me. We're just trying to get the PowerPoint set up. All right. So I work in the policy group at the Poverty Action Lab here at MIT, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about evaluating the impact of social enterprise. Can everyone hear me okay?
A little louder.
A little louder. All right, let me move the mic a bit closer. Is that better?
Yes.
All right. So each impact evaluation kind of starts from this question: how can I know if my social enterprise, my policy, my program is contributing to the type of change that's embedded in my mission statement? So today I want to get into some of the reasons why answering this question can be quite difficult, and how different types of evaluation can be used by organizations to help answer this question. I also want to talk about how there's an existing body of impact evaluations that have already been done that can help us already start to think about how we may improve design of social enterprise, social programs, and how impact evaluation can help us question our assumptions about how people behave in response to participating in a social program or buying a product that is aimed to improve their lives. So I hope this session can be a bit interactive, and I want to take about 40 minutes to present and 20 minutes of Q&A. We might shorten that since we're a bit behind schedule. But if you have questions throughout, please feel free to raise your hand, and I'll take your questions during the presentation as well. So here's an overview. I want to give you a little bit of intro about JPAL, but then I want to move more broadly into what's the motivation behind evaluation? What are the goals and purposes of it? Next, I want to define impact, and then talk about some different methodologies for measuring impact, and particularly about what JPAL does, which is randomized evaluations, which is what we think is the most rigorous or accurate way to estimate the true impact a program has on a given outcome. Then I want to go into 4 results from recent evaluations that are kind of surprising and can help us think about questioning some of our assumptions about how people behave in response to participating in social programs or buying a product from a social enterprise. Then I'll open it up for discussion. So first, JPAL's mission is to reduce poverty by ensuring that policy is based on scientific evidence. We're first and foremost a network of 76 economists based at universities all around the world. They're united by their use of randomized evaluations or randomized control trials to evaluate the effectiveness of social programs, spanning lots of different sectors, including agriculture, education, microfinance, governance, etc. So we work to achieve this in 3 ways. First, our researchers conduct the evaluations in partnership with NGOs, governments, and private sector firms. We also work as an organization to build the capacity of policymakers or decision makers in these types of organizations to be able to consume evidence better and produce evidence better about what programs are most effective and which ones are less effective. And then I'm in the policy group, and that's the 3rd component of our mission, which is once this research is completed, how do we get it in the hands of people who can actually use it to improve the design of social programs that are meant to improve people's lives. So we're based at 5 regional offices around the world, all based at universities. And we have over 350 ongoing or completed randomized evaluations of social programs in agriculture, education, microfinance, governance, labor markets, health, the whole gamut. So now I want to pose a question to you. So in many developing country contexts, school enrollment is high, but student attendance and teacher attendance are still a problem. So I want to pose a question to you. Say you're an education minister and your goal is to increase student and teacher attendance. What are some of the things that you might think about investing in?
The school meal?
School meals?
Yeah.
Great.
Vaccinations at the schools for free.
For free. And why would that help increase attendance?
Parents see that as value added.
Great. Any others? Yes.
Remove the fences
Which fences?
of the school. Make it open.
Make it more open.
Yeah.
Democratize access. Okay, great.
Transportation for after-school programs?
Right. So in that it would help people, provide childcare also, or great. And also, that's a great thing to keep in mind. Transportation costs are real costs that parents face when trying to get their kids to enroll in school. So decreasing those costs might help increase attendance overall. So great.
Fun programs. Fun educational programs.
Fun education programs, making school more fun, might make kids more interested in attending. Great. So as we've seen, it's not as though we have a shortage of potentially good ideas or potentially good solutions to this problem. We have a lot of solutions. You mentioned several of them. We could give away books for free if they have low resources. We could improve school buildings. We could give conditional cash transfers that are given to families if their students attend school as a way to incentivize them to attend school. Give lunch for free. We could have remedial education and after-school programs. We can empower parents to monitor teachers to make sure that teachers are coming to school. So the problem here is not that we have a shortage of good solutions, it's that we have an abundance of potentially good solutions. How do we choose among them? So that's kind of what the question, what is the impact of my program, is trying to get at. It's trying to get you information that can help you make decisions about what types of programs to invest in. And that's what JPAL is all about. So one way to think about trying to make this decision about what to invest in, especially one that's relevant to most organizations, is the cost constraint, the budget constraint. So with impact evaluation, you can both measure which programs are most effective at increasing student attendance, but you can also state that as a ratio to how much these programs cost, as a way to compare programs in terms of how much impact can you get for a given budget constraint. So the idea behind this is just to give decision makers data upon which to base their decisions about what to invest in. So now moving to a broader question of why evaluate. Why are we so concerned about evaluating our work, and what can evaluation help us achieve? I'm going to mention two reasons why I think it's particularly important, but then I want to open it up to you guys to discuss. So first, it's important to understand the impact caused by the program. Why? As an organization with a social mission, we have accountability to both the people we serve and perhaps the people who fund us to demonstrate that our program has impact on people's lives. Impact evaluation can also help us answer questions about how benefits are distributed among different types of people. Perhaps a business training program works better for businesses that are already well established and didn't help startups. Or perhaps a program benefits women more than it benefits men. Knowing these types of answers can help us design more effective policies. And they can also help us find the reasons behind success or failure. So by conducting impact evaluations, we have data that can help us improve program design and policy design. So what are some of the other reasons why you think it may be important to evaluate your social enterprise or your policy or your social program?
Yes, coming from a nonprofit background, I would say sustainability. So evaluating programs so that you constantly can apply for grants and funds and be able to prove that your program is running well.
Right, so if you're in an organization that relies on outside funding to run your programs or to achieve your mission, it's important that you're able to demonstrate impact to those who might invest in you. Any other reasons?
On a political level, it's good to measure impact so that you address that to your stakeholders, basically, whether the public, So if you have good impact, the policy have good impact, you have to outreach the public and tell them about that.
Exactly. Yes, and I think getting more transparent and providing more accountability to the people that you're aiming to serve is one of the biggest benefits of evaluation. Any others? So one other thing that I like to think about in why impact evaluation is important is that, you know, there are often in social change, in efforts to cause social change, there are a lot of fads. You know, for a long time, microfinance was seen as a silver bullet to address poverty. You know, women would start new businesses with their microloans and they would be able to generate more profits. This would cause them to invest more in their children, invest more in their businesses, have a higher income, and create all sorts of benefits. Now, with impact evaluation, there's been shown that microcredit does have important benefits, but it may not be this silver bullet that lifts people out of poverty. It can help people manage their businesses better. It can help people invest in more expensive investments like durable goods for businesses, but maybe it's not that magic silver bullet that can improve the lives of, you know, all women around the world. So I think impact evaluation is kind of important for getting us to be critical about fads and different in social change. So what's the ultimate goal? That we will have a bigger impact on poverty due to more effective programs, and by having evidence about which programs work and which don't, we'll have a more efficient allocation of resources within the social change sphere. So there are many different types of evaluation. First, there's a needs assessment, and this helps you answer the question, you know, is your organization addressing a problem that's relevant to the communities in which you work? This is something that all organizations have a pretty good job doing at the outset of developing their program, but one thing that's important to keep in mind is that needs change over time, so you may want to do a needs assessment not just in the first year that you are developing your program, but repeatedly every year after to test whether the need is still relevant in the community. Process evaluations help you answer questions like, is your program operating as it was designed? Success is the result of an effective solution plus effective implementation. So even if you have an effective solution to a problem, if it's poorly implemented, your organization could fail to contribute to the social change that you wish to see. So process evaluation is critical for tracking whether your program is working as it was designed to work and making course corrections if it's not. Impact evaluation, which is just one subset within all these other types of program evaluation, gets at a bit different kind of question. It helps you answer, did your organization contribute to positive change? Why or why not? And whom in particular did it help or not help? There's also cost-benefit or cost-effectiveness analysis. This can help you when you have many different solutions that have been shown to achieve a particular outcome that you're interested in, like student attendance. Say you have a lot of things that have been shown to improve student attendance in school. How do you choose which one is most effective, which one is was best to invest in? So going a bit deeper into this difference between process evaluation and impact evaluation, I want to go through a simple example of a program that identified the need of students needing textbooks in schools. So say that you conduct a needs assessment and you find that in the communities that your education organization is working in, that schools are poorly resourced, they don't have enough textbooks for schools, and that parents, teachers, students are voicing the concern that this is negatively affecting their ability to become literate in primary school. So your organization starts the Books for Kids program that brings textbooks into local schools. So what are the necessary steps between delivering books to schools and higher literacy? So first, you have to make sure that the textbooks actually get to schools, that your organization is actually able to procure them and deliver them, and that teachers are trained on how to use them. This is called your output. It's what the organization produces in order to produce the desired social change. An outcome might be that because students and teachers now have books, they're more likely to use them during daily instruction, and if they do use them on a regular basis, This can lead to your final impact, which is higher rates of literacy among school children. Process evaluations answer questions typically about inputs and outputs. Was the program implemented as promised? So in this case, you might measure the effectiveness of the implementation of your program as how many books were distributed, how many teachers were trained, how many schools were visited. Impact evaluation is more about checking whether the program led to higher literacy in the end. Did children and teachers use the books in daily instruction, and did this lead to more learning of students? So we want to measure our program's impact, but how exactly is impact defined? So in order to measure the impact of the program, you need to know what happened to the people who participated in the program and what would have happened to them had they never participated in the program at all. So say we offer low-income people savings accounts in hopes that this might increase their total savings, and savings might help them invest more in education or small business, etc. The impact of offering people savings accounts is the difference between their total savings having been offered a savings account and their total savings if they were never offered a savings account in the first place. In this state of the world, what would have happened to the people if they didn't receive the program? That's called the counterfactual. And the central challenge of all impact evaluation is trying to construct this state of the world in which what would have happened to the people had they never received the program in the first place. But the problem is that we can't observe that. So how do we go about creating the counterfactual? So there's lots of different ways we can do that, but there's lots of different research methodologies that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with in terms of measuring organizations' impact. You can do qualitative surveys. You can ask people on surprise visits, are the teachers using the textbooks in class? Are students taking them home and reading them on a regular basis? You can have anecdotal evidence. You can make regular site visits and ask people to show you success stories of how people have been using the textbooks in class and outside school. You could do before and after difference. Say you were trying to improve, you were measuring learning by improvement in test scores on end-of-term test scores. You could measure the students' test scores before the textbooks were delivered and after. The problem with this is that you can't control for other changes over time. So there's a lot of different methods. How do we go about choosing the one that measures our impact the most rigorously? So I want to get a little bit abstract here and think more about how do we actually measure what change our program contributed to. And let's take an example of a social enterprise that trains small businesses in financial literacy and better accounting practices. And the desired goal is to increase their profits. So our primary outcome of interest is business profits. So let's say we have the training and we measure the profits of businesses before and after. What can we learn from this? So the problem with measuring the profits simply before and after is that we don't know what happens over time. Take this scenario, measuring profits before and after. Can we learn anything about the impact of the program with this? No.
It's effective.
It's effective? It's effective. Okay, so why do you say it's effective?
Because the slope is going up.
Oh, okay. Well, what if there's a little bit more to the story? What if in absence of the program, profits went up anyway? So the problem with simple before and after measurement is that you can't account for other changes that may have occurred over time that may have increased profits anyway. Perhaps these small businesses were working in a booming sector, and training, didn't really have any impact on profits, but just because there was, economic growth at that time, their profits could have increased anyway. So another common way to try to estimate the impact of your program is to measure profits of businesses after they went through the training and profits of other businesses who didn't receive the training. What could be some potential problems with this? Go ahead.
Thank you. The two businesses aren't necessarily identical, so there could be different factors at play that affect their profit levels.
That's exactly right. There's likely systematic differences between the businesses that participated in your program and those that didn't. Say, for instance, the businesses that didn't participate in your program already had high profits because this program was targeting specifically businesses that were not profitable from the outset. It was meant to train low-performing businesses in hopes that they could help them become more profitable. So it's not an accurate comparison to compare businesses with initially very low profits to businesses with initially very high profits. You wouldn't necessarily expect those less profitable businesses to catch up to the high profitability businesses. All right, so getting back to this question of impact and what is it? So you have your intervention. So what's the impact of your program? It's not the difference between the profits here and the profits before the intervention. It's the difference between the profits with the program and if those same people had not received the program. So let's move on to another case. So what's the impact of this program? Do you know from this information? Correct. You don't know from this information. You need to know what the counterfactual was, what happened to the people in absence of the program. It could have been that the training actually confused businesses and they were ineffective in generating their own income statements and their own financial statements, and this just harmed their business operations rather than helped it. So it could be that in absence of the program, they would have had higher profits, and so the impact could potentially be negative. What about in this case? Here, even though profits were going down, in absence of the program, profits could have been worse, so even if profits are declining overall, you can still demonstrate that your program had a positive impact if you know the counterfactual. All right, so let's get deeper into these concepts. So let's take an example of an education intervention that's aimed to improve students' learning based on student test scores. Say an organization wanted to measure the effectiveness of the program by taking students' test scores before the program and test scores after the program. What's the problem with this? Go ahead.
Which students ate breakfast before the exam?
Right. So there are other factors that can be contributing to their test scores besides your education program. Say your education program is to have tutoring after school. There's likely other things that are influencing their performance on tests that have nothing to do with your program. So the problem is that you can't tell what portion of this change is due to your program and what portion of this change is due to just changes that happen over time and other factors. One thing to keep in mind with education interventions, particularly at the primary school level, is that kids' cognition develops over time. So just by growing older, they could be learning more. So there are definitely problems with measuring impact before and after with the same students. So what if we tried to instead measure the impact of the program by comparing test scores in schools that did receive the after-school tutoring program and schools that didn't receive the tutoring program? So take this case. What was the impact of this program? What does it look like if you compare it to these neighboring districts? Right. The potential problem is that it depends on what you're comparing it to. If you compare neighboring District 2 to the program district, it looks like the program had a negative impact on learning. But if you compare it to neighboring District 1, it looks like the program had a positive impact on learning. So the problem here is that neighboring District 1 and neighboring District 2 and the program district can be systematically different from the outset. You know, there are richer, more well-resourced schools, there are poorer schools with fewer researchers, and we wouldn't necessarily expect the test scores of students in poor resource schools to be able to catch up to those in high, well-resourced schools. So going back to this definition of impact as the difference between what happened to the people with the program and what would have happened to them if they didn't have the program, the problem is that We can't observe that. So what we try to do in impact evaluation is reconstruct this counterfactual by creating a comparison group. A group that in all ways is similar to the group that receives the program. And by comparing the outcomes of the group who received the program to the outcomes of the group who did not receive the program, you can come up with a rigorous estimate of what the impact of your program was. And the way that JPAL-affiliated researchers do this is through randomized evaluations or randomized control trials. Has anyone heard of these before? Yes, I'm sure you have. So the idea is that by randomly assigning people to either receive a program or not receive a program for a given time, and leaving it up to chance, a flip of a coin or a draw of a hat, you'll create two groups that are comparable, in all ways, on average, equivalent. They have the same levels of education on average, the same levels of income on average. So because that they're similar at the beginning of the program and that they experience the same changes over time, your impact can be measured as the difference. Take our business training example. The difference in profits between this group and this group can be defined as the impact of your business training program. Are there any questions? Go ahead.
Thank you. So far, it's been a very neat representation, almost clinical. What we learned yesterday is the importance of culture. Your presentation pretends to be neutral of culture. Let me be the devil's advocate and propose that it ain't so. Why it ain't so? Because culture is location specific. You've collected your observations from various locations. If I recall, it's something like 350 locations all over the world and so forth. I'm troubled by that because the reality is when you apply this very clinical, neat schemes to different locations, you're applying it to people. Reality is a very messy business. And when you are talking about social issues, this pretty much sooner or later breaks down.
That's a fantastic question, and let me address it for a little bit if I may. So our researchers are highly concerned about how different contextual factors such as culture or institutions or governance structures or language or different cultural traditions impact these complex kinds of social change. And I would say that that is a question that is always considered in their impact evaluations. When we're trying to apply the results of impact evaluations, it's not as if we say, oh, a program was effective in Kenya, therefore we expect it to be effective in India. We would never do that because, of course, it's context, institution, and culturally specific. So when we try to disseminate the results of these evaluations, our researchers are always thinking about cultural context, government context, institutional context. It's not as if they're saying, oh, you know, this program was effective in one place, let's apply it to another place. What randomized evaluations are good at answering is, in this one context, is this program effective as it was implemented? And we would never recommend adopting this program wholesale somewhere else without first thinking about whether it would be likely to also work in a new context with a different culture, with a different governance institutions, etc. Does that somewhat get to your question? Go ahead.
My name is Sharif. I'm actually part of a social venture fund, so we get that question all the time.
Yep.
So thanks for a great presentation. So my question is, this is really good at actually measuring outcomes, and most organizations request randomized trials from us.
Right.
But when we talk about poverty, sometimes there's the quality of life impact that you want to measure.
Yep.
And it's kind of difficult to look at it just education or just job opportunities. So I was wondering if the Poverty Action Lab, maybe on the policy work side, look into how much all these things actually contribute to the quality of life and allow people to get out of poverty, and how long of a time frame would that actually take?
That's a really great question. I'll try to answer it briefly, or at least get to some of the points you mentioned. So obviously poverty is a multi-dimensional problem. It's not, just about income. It's not just about access to education. It's also about things like happiness, mental health. And a lot of our researchers are in tune with that and eager to measure whether programs can actually benefit people along other sorts of quality of life measures. And I actually want to bring up an example because I'm actually only at the midway point of the presentation, and I want to show some examples of what research has already been completed. But one, just jumping ahead, one evaluation tested whether giving households interest-free loans to connect their houses in Tangier to piped water would improve their lives. And the theory from the outset was that women and girls spend hours of their day going to collect water. If they didn't have to go and collect water, would this allow them to invest their time more productively in things like, studying more or working more hours and generating more income? And what this evaluation found is that giving people access to piped water, people were really willing to pay for it. But it didn't increase their time spent on education or income generating activities. What it did was free up their time for things that they enjoyed, like leisure activities, spending more time with friends. So thinking about programs that are supposed to improve people's well-being, well, what do you mean by improving people's well-being? It could be that that a policymaker could decide that giving people access to piped water is useful and beneficial to people, not because it necessarily increases their ability to invest in education or improve their income, but it makes their lives more convenient, more enjoyable, reduces conflict at community water sources. So there are lots of ways to define well-being, and impact evaluations can measure them along those different lines, and then it's up to the policymaker or the organization or the venture fund to decide what's most relevant to them, what types of change do they want to invest in. Sorry?
Can you keep the questions at the end? You're not done yet, right?
No.
Yeah, because can you keep the questions at the end?
Okay, how much time do I have left? Okay. All right, so maybe we can come back to, so I do want to go into one more example about how impact evaluation helps us get at some of our assumptions behind training and the effectiveness of training, because a lot of times as organizations we assume that if we have a good enough curriculum, if we have good enough content, and the people who are delivering that content are well enough trained, that we will be able to empower people to learn the material, use the material, and apply it in their everyday lives. So some of our affiliated professors attempted to ask the question with microfinance clients in the Dominican Republic. They did an evaluation to investigate what types of training really improve small businesses' business practices. Specifically, they tested whether an accounting training, a traditional principles-based accounting training that taught businesses how to calculate their revenues and their expenses and their profits, was more or less effective than a rule of thumb training that just gave businesses simple rules about dividing business and personal cash, paying themselves a fixed salary, writing down every single transaction that happens during the day. Which one was more effective? And I'd like to open it up to you. Which one do you think was more effective? And could you think of what businesses may or may respond differently to these different types of training? So you said the second one. Why do you think the second one would be more effective?
He's on
expecting to talk. I honestly don't think small businesses care about accounting. It's more or less like how they split their money. They may be disorganized in that sense, so having a rule of thumb training might help them out. That's what I have in mind. Accounting really, I don't think it's that beneficial for them. Maybe if it's a larger scale business, it would be.
Anyone who would take the opposing view?
Hello, good morning, everyone. I believe like the first option, like giving them basic knowledge about accounting and giving them or telling them to know what's your personal expenses and what's your business expense, and taking a salary, treating yourself as an employee, but like a top management employee. That's the best thing for us for a business to succeed or like to go on the right way, because at a point he will know that this is I just work here, so I can't like play with the money. I can't take a wrong decision. I have to ask questions. I have to work hard to take my salary, because if I don't work today, I'm not gonna take a salary. And that's why I see like from my family business and from the way I work in general. So like they treat themselves as employees. So that's why they work every day to make money. They don't work, they stay home, and they like have to write all the transactions, or someone's gonna write it for them. They're not gonna go anywhere.
Right.
Thank you.
So like you both are intuiting, the rule of thumb training was more helpful for small businesses. In particular, it increased the likelihood that they would keep their personal and business accounts separate, and it increased the probability that they would calculate their revenues. It also increased their profits in bad weeks, meaning that the training somehow better prepared them for low sales weeks. And so the question to assumption here, or the assumption to question here, is that a lot of financial literacy training around the world is based on very principles-based Western accounting systems, and maybe that more simple rules of thumb might be more effective for smaller businesses. And particularly, the researchers found that this training was helpful for businesses that have never received any formal financial education before that point. It wasn't very effective for businesses that had already received a lot of financial literacy training. So in this way, the research helped identify the group of people for which this type of rule of thumb-based training might be most effective. And that's kind of what those types of distributional questions are, the types of questions that we hope to answer through impact evaluation. So one important topic I want to get into that I think will be quite relevant for this audience is, how do you choose the way to measure whether your program had an impact? How do you choose an outcome measure? So I have a few tips that we can discuss. So outcome measures should be observable and measurable. A lot of organizations are currently aiming to improve women's empowerment, but how would you go about measuring women's empowerment? Stuff? Sorry?
Births per mother.
Births per mother, great. Any other suggestions?
Age of marriage.
Age of marriage, education.
Spacing between one birth and the other?
Spacing between births.
Percentage of women holding high-ranking positions in government.
Exactly. You're all getting at the right answer, which is that you have to choose things that are observable. You can't just go into a community and ask, prominent leaders whether, are women empowered in your community? Because they're likely to tell you the answer that you want to hear. So these things have to be observable. So things like spacing between births, or number of births per mother, age of marriage, the number of times women speak up at local town meetings, the number of women elected to local government positions. So the outcome measure has to be detectable. What do I mean by that? So if you're an organization that provides maternal and child health care, and your ultimate goal is to reduce infant mortality, it's unlikely that you'll be able to measure a change in infant mortality, because that's not necessarily within your sphere of influence. A lot of things are influencing infant mortality. So if you're a small maternal and child health organization, you might think about instead measuring things like the incidence of particular types of diseases that might be indicative of leading to mortality in children at a young age. So you also want your measures to be comprehensive. What I mean by that is you have to measure them in all aspects along which people behave. Say you were interested in measuring people's savings. You couldn't just go and measure their savings in a bank. I wish it were as easy as going to the bank, getting their account balance and saying that's how much they save, because people also save in jewelry. In a lot of contexts, they save in livestock, and you have to measure that as well if you're attempting to measure total savings. Outcome measures also have to be reliable. There are lots of questions you can ask people, that they simply forget over time. You can't go to someone and say, how many times has your child had an incidence of diarrhea in the past month? Could you remember that? I know I certainly couldn't remember that off the top of my head. So when you're measuring these things, you want to give people a specific time frame over which to measure it. So our rule of thumb, especially with things like health, is like no longer than 1 week recall period. And also, there are certain outcomes that people might be more likely to misrepresent to you because it's sensitive information that they don't necessarily want to share. So you want to make sure again that that you can observe these things without asking people in case they have the incentive to, not tell you how much their business is making. So I want to point out some resources. So if you're interested in impact evaluation in general, the best recommendation I can make to you is to read For Economics. It was written by our founding professors Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo, and it goes through the results and sometimes surprising results of the randomized evaluations that have been conducted by JPAL affiliated researchers, and kind of serves as a guide for best or good practices in designing social programs or social enterprises. We also have a lot of resources on our website. You can search all the evaluations we've done. Say your social enterprise is looking to increase the profitability of businesses. You can go to our website and search all of our research by policy goal. And so you would search by financial literacy. And then you would find all the evidence that we've already produced on financial literacy. So thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I want to open up to questions if there's time.
So in the best interest of time, we will, we're running a little bit late on schedule. So we'll have like a couple of questions and we'll start the pitch. But then during lunch break, like feel free to grab Claire and like ask all the
Completely.
questions.
I feel like this
she's
was
with us today.
very high level and covered a lot of different types of topics. I have a lot of cards and I would love to have more individual conversations about the types of evaluation that you're thinking about doing in your own organizations.
Okay. So thank you for the presentation. Randomization helps you, get a control and measure your effectiveness of what you're doing. But from an ethical human perspective, you sort of have to pick half the people that you're going and you're getting information about and tell them, I'm not going to help you.
Yeah.
I'm making that conscious choice that I need your data, but you're just data points in my survey. So how do you deal with that? It's difficult to make that decision.
That's a great question. And there's a lot of precedence for the answer within randomized evaluations in the medical community. So we've decided that it's not ethical to withhold treatment if it's been proven to be effective. So we would never withhold treatment from people if we knew the answer from the outset that it was effective. But if you don't know whether the program can actually benefit people or not, randomization could be one way to show that it's effective. Another point that's important to bring up is that most organizations have limited resources anyway, and they use some criteria to make a decision about where they're going to invest and where they're going to not invest. A lot of times with government bodies, ministers can invest in their home governorates or home districts rather than other districts. And by randomly assigning who gets a program and who doesn't, this can actually be quite a fair way to distribute a given program for a given set of limited resources. Also, another thing to note is that you don't have to withhold treatment, but you can still conduct a randomized evaluation. A lot of randomized evaluations offer a program to a whole population and randomly offer encouragement to half of the group. So say you have a microfinance program. Everyone's eligible for loans, but in this study you could randomly offer some people extra help with the loan application. And then you could see what's the impact of offering people microcredit. Does that help?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I have two questions.
Great.
I understand your point on metrics, and I'm in agreement on that. But it seems like that creates a challenge because it means that the changes that you're trying to create have to be manifested within the timelines of your study. And so that means it causes you to ignore what might be more important problems that might be longer scale.
Right.
So how do you address that?
Okay, so I see two parts to your question. The first part is that if you're so focused on metrics, how do you capture other change that might be happening outside of those metrics? And then the second part is, how do you think about long-term change? Which one are you more concerned about?
I guess it's more the second.
More the second. So the great thing about randomized evaluations is that you can go back and do follow-up studies even 10 years or 15 years or hundreds of years after the original randomization occurred. Because if initially the program was assigned based on a draw of a hat or a flip of a coin, and these groups experience the same changes over time, you can still compare their outcomes. One example is that we studied whether being exposed to deworming medication improved people's incomes later in life by making, the theory is that, by being dewormed, they might have attended school for longer. By attending school for longer, they might have had increases in income later on in life. And some of our researchers were able to go back 10 years later and measure their changes in income that were attributable to being exposed to deworming treatment more in their early life.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you speak a little on the impact of your findings towards political strategy?
What specifically within political strategy?
Let's use the example of Egypt. Talk about what type of, how your findings over the next, let's say your organization was going to focus on Egypt over the next couple of years. What type of findings do you think might come up that could influence opposition parties' strategy in becoming more successful?
So that's a great question, and one which is quite difficult to answer because, as one of the conference participants already pointed out, cultural context matters, institutional context matters, government context matters. So I would have to know what the specific goal of the program was, what it was trying to achieve. Then we might think of lessons that might be applicable and transferable from other contexts because the context in Egypt might be similar. But without some specific goal, it's hard to know from the outset what types of things would be effective or more effective. So it's all very context specific. If there are specific things, perhaps we can talk about them together after the session.
Okay, do you have any examples of how your findings have influenced political strategy within any of the countries that you have worked at?
Sure, so a lot of our prominent studies about the effectiveness of governance and attempts to reduce corruption have taken place in Indonesia. Our affiliated professor, who's actually based here at MIT, Benjamin Olken, has studied a lot of governance questions in Indonesia. So for instance, one of the studies he did measured whether top-down audits by a government audit body or empowering communities to monitor local officials, which one was more effective at reducing corruption in road construction projects, because they had this huge program of missing expenditures that, road projects would report that they spent this much money when really when they went back and examined the road, they didn't buy all the materials and they might have been siphoning off some for themselves. What he found was that empowering the community to monitor local road projects was effective in reducing missing expenditures on labor. This was because community members could observe when the road construction teams were lying about their labor costs, because in these projects they hired local labor to construct the roads. So in that way, the community was more effective at reducing missing labor expenditures. But in terms of materials expenditures in the road, it's hard for a community member to know all the different types of materials that go into constructing a good road. And he found that top-down audits from a government auditing body, which took core samples from each road in order to determine whether all the correct materials were purchased and combined in the right order, the audits were more effective at reducing that type of corruption.
Thank you.
Be careful.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you so much. So it would be like the cop here. So thank you all. We'll start right away without a break, so stay tuned. We'll start with the pitch. So this is like, now it's the finalist role, and they're ready. Sarah? Yes. Thank you all for being here, and we welcome you to our Impact Egypt 2013 competition. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of how the competition is going to work. Each finalist is going to present their pitch for 3 minutes without any PowerPoint slides. There will then be a timed 5-minute question and answer session by our wonderful judges right here. I would like to introduce you to our judges. Our first judge is Ihab Ismail. He's the co-founder and managing partner at Innovio Consulting. Our second judge is Dr. NEGMA Ibrahim. She's the Associate Provost, Entrepreneurship and Research Development. Wael Fakharani, Regional Director of Google Egypt and North Africa. Mohammed Murad Zayed, Chairman of the Board of Directors of Barrow Engineering and Vice Chairman of the Egyptian Junior Business Association. Okay, so the voting process and how this is all going to work out. What's going to happen is we're going to have NEGMA coordinators. They're going to walk all over the room, and they're going to give you voting cards that look like this. And what's going to happen is you're going to write the name of the finalist, the number of the finalist on the card, and you're going to underline it. And it's important that you underline it so we don't confuse, for instance, finalist 6 with finalist 9. After you have written the number, we're going to give you 15 minutes to make your decision. And we're going to come around and we're going to collect all the cards, and we're going to count them. And we'll let you know of our decision, and the winners will be announced after lunch.
Only one number.
How many products?
Only one number.
Only one number.
So there's only one winner.
Well, there's going to be 3 top winners. So we have 3rd place winner, 2nd place winner, and 1st place winner. Sorry.
Arabic or English?
I prefer English. Let's do it English.
So 9 and 6.
Underline. So it's also very important that while voting is taking place, that we all stay in the room, and please don't leave the room. So until we collect all the votes from everyone in the audience. And also, I have a quick request. Hopefully, this will be easy for everyone. If you could tweet and hashtag EgyptNEGMA while you're taking a look at our finalists and letting people know what's going on at the Impact Egypt competition, we really appreciate it. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first finalist, Amina Sai, finalist number 1, Hel.
أمينة كسبت مش احنا ظبطنا بقى اي حاجه كده دولار برضه صح
So what you just felt right now is the inability so what you felt right now is my inability to communicate to you what I want to say, and you not being able to understand what I want to tell you. And this is what every new person feels like. So I'm Amina Sai, and I'm the co-founder of Helm with my partner Rose Meher. And we started Helm about 2 years ago. So there are 10 million people in Egypt who suffer from being treated as second-degree citizens, 4 million children in schools who are being discriminated against, and there's not enough education institutions that serve education for people with disabilities, and even those who are lucky to get higher education, they don't even get a job. So HELM aims to promote the full participation of people with disabilities in all aspects of life. And our focus is career services, because there's not a single organization in Egypt that actually does that. So in an attempt to break that gap, in an attempt to find, get people who need a job and do not have the training or the means to do that, we give them Stream the Dream. Stream the Dream is a program designed by Tatweer International, and we partner with them in order to help people with disabilities get quality education with 70% of the price anytime, anywhere. We are creating also a mapping system in order to help disabled potential employees fit with the suitable jobs. So we find the jobs and then we connect them with it. And then through the holistic model that we also offer profit-generating services in order to continue our work, where disabled and non-disabled people get to collaborate and be together in one environment. So like full-time professional care services, a store, a restaurant, an art space, okay? So this center ensures people with disabilities inclusion in the society. So with the expertise of our 15 partners, we managed to also have dedicated top-notch consultants such as Hiba Ashmali, who turned Logic Consulting from 6 million to a 36 million company in 3 years. We actually helped employ 270 employees. We started a whole line for people with hearing disabilities in a factory, and actually we managed to make a 30%, they managed to be much better than people without hearing disabilities in productivity. We also helped several multinationals find employees for no charge, since we couldn't get any money then. We also got a lot of coverage. Mona Shazli on NBC Masr is covering a whole episode on our work, and they're following up with us. And we also consider our community service club in AUC as a very good model, as a pilot project. And all we need is $150,000 to start our holistic model in order to switch from helping thousands to millions. So thank you very much, and we're not hoping to create change, we are creating change, so please be part of it. Thank you very much. Oh, questions? Okay, I thought it was clear enough. Okay, so any questions? Sure.
I actually have 2 questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
The first being, is it just about people with hearing disabilities or other disabilities as well?
No, actually all kind of disabilities, because we have 15 partners. So instead of working with, because we're very young, we're not experienced. So we found all the organizations in Egypt, and we decided to not reinvent the wheel and to use the help of our 15 partners in the field. So each of them is specialized in a certain disability, so that helps us to connect with them and help as much people as possible in each field of disabilities.
And the second question, how do you plan to capitalize on the 30% gain in productivity from employing people with disabilities? And how do you plan on using that from the employer side to encourage employers to hire people with disabilities?
Okay, we have first of all, you know that any company over 50 employees in Egypt by law should employ 5%, okay? So what we do is they come to us because they need us, and what normally happens is that they actually pay most organizations in Egypt, they pay the 5% of the people and they keep them at home because it's much cheaper than preparing. So if we keep an eye on them, and if we're going to make a system where we give awards every year. We have a partnership with, I don't know if you know, Menus in Egypt. It's quite a famous website for ordering food, for seeing the menus of all the restaurants. So we are collaborating with them to create a little icon for each organization that is disability friendly and who allows perhaps wheelchairs to enter the facility. So we're going to create social pressure, and this is what we've been doing. We have actually created several awareness campaigns in the past year. We created about 6 events, about a weekly stand somewhere around Cairo as a start, until we create a solid model that we can replicate all across Egypt.
What will you use 150,000 for?
First of all, we want to create the most impact. So before that, it was about half that price before we started the e-learning program. Where we're going to have little centers, and the first center is going to have the 5 activities that I mentioned, including, so this center is going to have a restaurant, which is like a very, it's one of the best, has the highest ROI in Egypt, all people eat. So we want some things that would help collaborate, like we're going to do two things at once. We're going to make people collaborate together and be an inclusive society while getting regular profit in order to create more centers. These centers is like more of a social club. The social club is like somewhere where people get to go because there's about 500,000 people in Cairo who can't afford to pay for services like they want to go eat, they want to go eat and have their children with disabilities be in safe hands or professional care. So what we do is we provide all of that in one center, and we also bring some cultural activities like what we've been doing in Culture Sawi until we have our own premises, for people to go and actually do some activities and cultural activities and perform so that all kinds of people would go. So I don't know if you're familiar with Wist Al Balad, it's a famous band, and one of the members of them is on a wheelchair. So that's the thing. We want to, promote these kind of ideas, and we want to make like a talent show for people with disabilities, as I've talked with Dr. Sohi yesterday. But another part of the money is going towards e-learning. We want to start with a big patch. So there's two kinds of streams. We're going to sell it to people who can afford the e-learning programs, and then it's 70% less. So it's about $100 per course. Which is not affordable for most people, but it's affordable for 500,000. So we're going to take the money that we're going to sell from these packages, and then we're going to pump it back to for those who cannot afford this kind of training. And of course, there's different kinds of training for people and different needs as well.
What if you weren't able to raise $150,000? What if I give you only $10,000? What would you do with it?
I would do the same thing, but with so the amount I asked for was to help about 100,000 people, to impact these people. And what I would do is decrease the amount of people I'm going to help in the first year from 1 to 5 years. So what I'm asking for is that it's such a huge number of the population that we're dealing with, and nobody's taking care of them. So what I want to do is I don't want to start small. I want to start big. I want to help as many people as I can, because these are a huge chunk of the society. Can you imagine 10 million people? If you're taking an average of 3 people per family, that's affecting almost half of the population in Egypt. So if I want to work with big numbers. And yes, I'm trying to see I'm trying to get solutions that would help me reach a lot of people at the same time. And this is why one of our projects is e-learning.
Every project has a risk or some risks. What's your risk in this project?
My risk is that, of course, I wouldn't be generating enough profit to keep the business going. But also, it's a calculated risk, because so far I've not had any funding except recently from AUC in the past few weeks since we started our club there. But before that, we were a group of 150 volunteers just working. And also the part with e-learning, all I have to do is I'm not going to buy the products. I'm going to find people who are going to come and they're going to do it. But I want to start with the 2 streams at once. So if I'm not going to start with both streams, it's going to be fine. I'm still going to work. The only thing is I'm not going to work with the double the size of the market that I'm hoping for.
What if you don't have any money at all?
And this is the case, actually, if I don't have money at all, and which was the case for 2 years ago, I already employed 207 people. I already did courses and finished, and the products are with me right now, as for you to see, for people with mental disabilities. I've already done it for a couple of hundreds. And I also already create products that are here being sold in the US and in the UK. So it's not like I didn't start. We already started, and we're people who are working anyways, so we're not going to stop.
Okay, thank you. I have another question. What's your interaction with the government, if any?
Okay, that's the most important part, and we're actually trying to put pressure on the government to act. But there was once, when Mohamed Morsi first took power, he said in one of his... the first he had when he first held, he said we don't have a budget for people with disabilities right now. So I'm kind of hoping to show that it's not about a budget, it's really about actually enforcing the law. And if you check our brochure, you'll find that one of the parts we're pushing indirectly is the regulation. We're going to prove, and we're doing our own research. The biggest part of our volunteers are doing research, and we're going to prove that it's not just 10 million, we're sure it's more than that, and we're going to prove it. And we're going to make everybody who's not interactive in this part of the society look bad. And we're already doing that. So we're hoping to get the government to pay attention to.
So currently there's no interaction.
Currently we're trying to. I mean, we are, one of the people who are helping us is one of the, political figures, but we don't want to go political now because we don't want to lose anyone at the current situation in Egypt. I mean, you could go wrong if you try to get the wrong political help. So right now we're just hoping for the power of the people, and until we can hopefully one day get to sit with the right person. Actually, several people mentioned that yesterday when we were in the focus groups, and some people said maybe they can connect us to somebody. So that's part of the plan, of course, because this is a government project. This is not supposed to be done by an organization, and this is exactly what we're not trying to do. We're trying to help all the organizations work together instead of reinventing the wheel.
This is a tricky question.
Sure.
Do you have any competitors?
There is no such a thing as competitors in people with disabilities. Actually, I would love to have some competitors, okay? Because
okay, our next finalist is Khalid Mahfouz, finalist number 2, IDEA.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Khalid Mahfouz. I'm here today to present this small tag that costs 5 cents, but it could save an Egyptian hospital $4 million per year. One of our major problems in Egypt that equipment, supplies like drugs, important tools are being stolen from hospitals. Simply, if you can tag your items with this small tag, you would have the ability to track these tags in your facility real time. This is not only going to prevent it from being stolen, but also will enable you to find and locate these important items during time of emergency. This is a huge advantage. Saving one life is much, much more important than anything. Our idea is a technology solution company that seeks to implement RFID technology in Egypt. RFID stands for Radio Frequency Identification. I don't want to use a complicated technology terminology, but simply it's a technology that can read and identify items away up to 20 meters wirelessly through obstacles. This is a huge advantage. Facilities with RFID enabling them could have better staff management, better inventory management. They can have better security, updating their records in real time. Egypt has more than 5,000 hospitals with more than 170,000 beds. IDEA plans to secure 10 to 15% of this market. Unfortunately, I have to talk about money because to make the project sustainable, we need to make profit. It's not only the money profit, as I said before, it's a social profit because the saving that the hospitals are making is going to the quality of service of healthcare, which is, as all of us know, it's one of the worst healthcare qualities in the world. Why IDEA? I have been working 7 years in such technology. I developed, tested, employed the technology. Technology already there in the market. All what we need to do is start by a pilot project I chose the Children's Cancer Hospital due to its importance and its reputation in Egypt. So I need to start with a small project in one of its sectors, then expand my services to commercial sectors like museums, like factories, then expand more. There is ongoing discussion right now with the telecommunication authorities in Egypt to make sure that they are understanding such technology. For me, the passion is not only selling the technology, it's about making research in such technology. That's why every time I go back to Egypt, I give talks in Cairo University, German University in Cairo, to make sure that the researchers and the young brains have the ability to develop and enhance such technology in Egypt. we can develop such technology in Egypt. Thank you for listening. Any questions?
You first?
What if the hospital is bigger than 20 meters?
You have to put more equipment. So let's say I will give a small estimate for a room like this to enable it with RFID. Unfortunately, the 3-minute limit wasn't enough to talk about the technology. So if a room like this, we can put only one reader, we can equip it with RFID. So if you even try to take the tags out of the items, this is one of the possible things that can happen. You can tear off the tag. They will give an alarm for your security system saying that one is trying to take them off. If you try to go outside of this premises, it will give an alarm saying that this equipment which is not supposed to leave this premises is leaving this premises right away. So if it's bigger than 20 meters, you would have to put more equipment, which is not costly at all. It's already employed in the US hospitals. That's why I want to take it back to Egypt.
I'm sorry, you guys. The questions are only limited to judges in these sessions. Sorry. Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. But I noticed that you keep saying I. There is no we there. What does that mean?
This idea started with me when I was in University of Mississippi. We were a team of 5. But to get the industrial experience, for me, it's not only about just doing theoretical works and research and doing papers. To get the industrial experience, my team, every one of us went to work in different places. So right now, I'm the only one who is presenting today, but I have a team of 5. Most of them are master students and PhD students, and one of them is a business student. But I'm now talking about this idea by myself because I'm the one who is here in Boston. But we are a team of 5, and if we have the ability, one of my major problems, the barriers that I want to talk about, is that to have the communication with the management in the Children's Cancer Hospital. If I had the opportunity to talk with them and convince them with this solution, the team would be back together and we will implement such technology. That's why I'm saying I.
All your team are Egyptians living abroad?
2 of them are American Egyptians. They were born here. One of them is Egyptian, just like me, who was doing his PhD in University of Mississippi. And one is totally American, who wants just to help Middle East. That's it.
So nobody lives in Egypt, right?
Right now, no.
So how are you going to do a project like this with no knowledge of the market, of the hospitals, of the Ministry of Health, all of this?
That's why I'm here, to get the communication and get from I have been living in Egypt for 28 years before coming here to do the PhD. So I know that in Egypt you have to talk to the higher management, to the management. So all what I need is having the opportunity to sit down with the Children's Cancer Hospital management, and I'm sure because of the technology benefits and it's very easy to implement, it's usually user-friendly, I'm sure 100% that I've convinced them and I will be back with the team.
How much money do you need?
To start gradually, I want like $3,000 to equip a room like this or less. So I want just. One of the barriers also that I will face is that it's a new technology. Usually it's not that easy. When I first used my iPhone, it was a little bit difficult for me, then I get used to it. So I want to start gradually by doing just small pilot project in the Children's Cancer Hospital, as I said, because of the I think it's one of the most organized health sectors there in Egypt. That's why I want to start with it. Then I will expand my services. I don't need the money because the customers are the one who is going to pay for equipping these things because of the huge saving that they are going to do. So the sustainability comes from the customers. But first I need to prove the concept.
If the technology is easy and it's easy to implement, why do you think that it has not been implemented in Egypt before?
One of the things, I will just answer by a very small story. The barcode passports, it started in the United States in I'm not sure what year. Then after 10 to 10 years, it's in Egypt. So that's why I want to take the research back to Egypt, to be the leaders, not to be led. So it's only about the matter of not knowing.
If the startup and a pilot project of such a small amount, if you really believe in this idea, why didn't you and your team do it yourself? If you're talking about only $3,000.
To do it in Egypt, I need the relations. I need to know someone there to do it. The second thing, when I won a business plan competition before, but I didn't have the know-how as much as now because I work in industry right now in the RFID. So when we were the 5 team, we were not yet having the industrial experience. It's not all about theoretical work. So we didn't have this experience. But now I have this experience, and to be honest, I want to do it in the Middle East. So it's I want to start in the Middle East, not here, because already here it's.
Okay, one last question. You're here to convince everybody around, including us, to buy your idea. Knowing that you didn't do any market research, how could I buy your idea?
I'm not here to convince you to buy my idea. I'm here to convince.
You're looking for contacts.
I'm looking for relations and communication with the.
You haven't done enough market research.
What?
You have not done enough market research. Nothing at all in Egypt.
No.
To sell your idea.
I didn't do enough market research in Egypt, but the market is there. There is a huge need. Okay. Thank you for listening.
Let's just go over some things right now. The questions are going to be just solely from the judges, and when the time is up, when Dania, can you keep that up? There you go. When everybody sees that, that means time is up, and we're going to cut everyone off. That's the rules. Okay. So finalist number 3, Osama El-Zohari from Shell.
صباح الخير. انا النهارده هكلمكم عن مشروع اسمه شارك. انا قبل ما هبدا ان انا اتكلم عن البرزنتيشن بتاعي، انا عايز احكي لكم قصه قريه اسمها قريه ابو الصير، دي تبع مركز البدرشين في محافظه الجيزه. القريه دي بتطل على ترعه المريوطيه، الترعه بمساحه 2 متر تقريبا. المفروض الترعه دي هي السورس اللي بيبدا الناس بيها تبدا تزرع الزراعات بتاعتها. اللي حصل ان في ظل السيوله اللي حصلت في البلد في فتره ما، بدات الناس بتوع القمامه يرموا القمامه بتاعتهم في الترع بدل ما يودوها للمقلب العمومي بتاع محافظه الجيزه عشان يوفروا البنزين. منعكس ده ان النهر ده جف، ما بقتش الناس قادره ان هي تزرع زراعه. الناس عملت ايه؟ راحت للحكومه، ما حدش ساعدهم، ما حدش عمل لهم اي حاجه. عشان في مشكله وهم 19000 مواطن ما عندهمش امكانيات ماليه خالص، بداوا يقعدوا مع بعض، يا جماعه لازم نحل الموضوع. لموا من كل واحد مبلغ مالي وصلوا ل 32000. عملوا ايه؟ راحوا جابوا حفار، جابوا 2 عمال، جابوا عربيتين، شالوا الزباله، وسعوا ترعه المريوطيه بقت 6 متر النهارده. مش بس كده، عينوا منهم لنفسهم دوريه امنيه بالليل عشان يمنعوا اصحاب القمامه ان هم يرموا اي قمامه في المستقبل. وفضل معاهم شويه فلوس، اشتروا التوك-توكين كده وقالوا عشان يوصل الناس فور فري، الناس اللي ساهمت في المشروع. انا عايز اقول ايه؟ انا عايز اقول ان اي حاجه بيحصل فيها تواصل من المجتمع واتفاق على مشكله دائما ابدا بيوصلوا لحل بدل الموضوع بيمسهم هم. لما نيجي ننتقل لمحافظه بحجم القاهره اللي فيها 47000 مواطن في الكيلومتر مربع، النهارده احنا ما عندناش السنس اوف كوميونتي اني مور داخل المحافظه للاسف الشديد. الناس ما بقتش عارفه جارها هو مين ولا بيعمل ايه ولا بيشتغل ايه. انا قعدت مع مجموعه شباب في اعمار من 15 ل 35، شاب بيقول لي انا نفسي اعمل بس مش عارف. فبقول له يعني انت عندك ساعات تدفع 2 جنيه شهريا؟ قال لي مش خساره في مصر. اعمل اي حاجه مش خساره في مصر. احنا عايزين نعمل سوشيال بلاتفورم هيبقى باورد ببعض التولز من خلالها هيتعمل ترانسبيرنسي وكريديبيليتي للنيبرهودز في التعامل مع بعض. وان شاء ان انت تعمل ساتش سوشيال بلاتفورم، انا عندي خبره، انا عملت 2 ميجا بلاتفورمز للفورشن 100 كومبانيز، جي سي اي واي بي ام السنه اللي فاتت وانا هنا اثناء تواجدي في امريكا. احنا تيم، معانا مهندس في الاربن ديزاينز، معانا مهندس في الديفلوبمنت. هوبفلي ان شاء الله ان احنا نعمل حاجه محترمه. I'm here for التكنيكال اسيستنس من الناس اللي موجوده هنا. عايز اكسباند ماي تيم باكبر قدر ممكن عشان ان شاء الله نلونش البلاتفورم بتاعنا ونقدر الناس تتواصل مع بعض وتحل مشاكلها بنفسها ان شاء الله. شكرا.
برضه حضرتك عايش هنا مش كده؟
لا،
عايش في مصر. طيب انت بتقول انا هعمل السوشيال بلاتفورم، عملت حاجه ولا مجرد بس انت عندك
احنا حاليا في مرحله الديزاين بتاع السوشيال بلاتفورم. السوشيال دوت الديزاين بتاعه عمليه صعبه جدا لان هو هيبقى ميكس من 3 حاجات مختلفه، واحنا حاليا في مرحله يعني انا بعمل موك اب، بنزل للناس بشوف الناس بتمشي زي ما انا عايز ولا لا. في البروسيس انا اتعلمتها هنا في امريكا، هي مش عارف مش
في اي مرحله بقى انت في الديزاين؟ يعني هتخلص الشهر الجاي ولا في الصيف ولا السنه الجايه؟
انا اكسبكتنج خلال 45 يوم خلاص.
45.
هل بصيت على أي مواقع تانية مماثلة سوشيال بلاتفورمز مماثلة، وإيه اللي يميز الفكرة ديت عن حاجات تانية زي خيرنا مثلا؟
انا بصيت على مواقع تانية. على فكره الموضوع ده موجود في امريكا، في نكست دور في امريكا فور اكزامبل موجود في امريكا وموجود في اليو كي. احنا عندنا في مصر في مواقع تانية ولكن هي جاست بتبقى اخبار للنيبرز. احنا هنعمل حاجتين تانيين مختلفتين، يعني هنوفر عمليه كوليكشن للماني وفي نفس الوقت هنعمل عمليه الشراء ثرو البلاتفورم بتاعنا، وهو ده اللي ميزنا عن اي موقع تاني موجود في مصر.
انت قلت السوشيال نتورك دي كل الناس هتشتغل عليها وتاكسس. المناطق البسيطه ما بيستخدموش اساسا السوشيال نتوركس.
صح.
هاو كم هيستفيدوا بيها؟
انا باني البلان بتاعتي ان انا ام تارجتنج ذا 13.2 مليون يوزر اللي في فيسبوك. انا زي ما قلت ان احنا عايزين بزنس موديل مختلف في المحافظات زي القاهره والاسكندريه، ولكن المحافظات والقرى النائيه دي اوريدي عندها سنس اوف كوميونتي، هم مش وقتهم دلوقتي خالص، هم شغالين اوف لاين وناجحين اوف لاين في مواجهه مشاكل. انا مركز في محافظات القاهره وهبدا ببيتا بروجكت في منطقه مدينه نصر في البدايه ان شاء الله.
انا هسألك بالعربي زي ما انت بتتكلم بالعربي. هاو ماني محافظات؟ كم محافظات انت نزلت؟ يعني كم محافظة نزلت وكلمت وعرفت فيها؟
احنا كنا مركزين على القاهرة
فقط.
القاهرة فقط. احنا بنتكلم على القاهرة النهارده. القاهرة دي رقم 14 على العالم من حيث الكثافة السكانية. احنا بنتكلم على احنا مصر بتعيش 7.5% من اجمالي المساحة الكلية.
أيوة
النهارده القاهرة دي بالنسبة لي سنس للماركت كبير قوي.
ايوه بس مش كل حاجة بس في القاهرة يعني.
طبعا انا النهارده لو نجحت ان انا احل مشاكل القاهرة انا اعتقد ان ده هيبقى بالنسبه لي
يعني ما تفتكرش ان انت تبدا بمحافظه صغيره احسن من انك تبدا بمحافظه كبيره تدوب فيها.
الانديكيتور بتاعي الانترنت بنتريشن. الانديكيتور بتاعي هو الانترنت بنتريشن، لان انا اونلاين بلاتفورم. الانترنت بنتريشن عالي في القاهره واسكندريه والجيزه. للاسف المحافظات الثانيه الانترنت بنتريشن مش قد كده. احنا 21 مليون مواطن بس على فكره اللي عندهم انترنت.
انا عندي سؤال. حضرتك قلت موضوع تلم الفلوس مش كده؟ بالظبط. عارف انها تتقبض عليك يعني تلم الفلوس.
لا احنا هنعمل نظام زي كيك ستارتر فور اكزامبل.
مفيش قانون في مصر يحكم حاجه زي كده.
ما انا هقول لك احنا عاملين نظام موبيل بيمنت ان انت هتدفع من خلال تكست مسج للموبايل. مش هتجيلي انا خالص، انا مش هشوف
الاوبريتور.
هتروح للاوبريتور اللي هي الشركه اللي انا بناء عليها هتعاقد. يعني احنا عاملين مثلا ان انا هجيب صندوق زباله ده من شركه توحيد ونور هتبقى عامله الادفرتايزنج. الفلوس بتتجمع عندي، الناس بتبقى شايفه هي واصله لحد فين، بيروح الاوردر دايركت للتوحيد والنور بينزل. انا راجل جاست انا سوري انا والنجمه وات ايفر
يعني معلش ممكن تقول لي كده البروسيس يعني انا هدخل على البلاتفورم.
هتدخل على البلاتفورم دي انت بس تكتب 200 كاركتر عن مشكله انت عايز لها. عاملين الريستريكشن ده ليه؟ عشان مش عايزين الناس تخش تهزر يفتكروا ان انا هتعرف على دي او هرجع في التلفزيون. فاحنا عاملين 200 كاركتر بس. بالظبط كده. احنا عاملين 200 كاركتر، عاملين ليميتيشن. الراجل هيعمل بوست للاي دي بتاعته وهيختار سوليوشن من خلال سوليوشن وانسايتس موجوده على البلاتفورم ده. هيقول يا جماعه انا دلوقتي شايف ان احنا عندنا في قمامه موجوده قدام مدرسه الفلانيه، ما تيجوا نجمع مع بعض ونشيل الموضوع. الناس بتعمل فوتنج، احنا معاكم. طب احنا عايزين 500 جنيه لان الثمن ده 500 جنيه وهيبقى مختار. هيطلع الاوردر هدفع ثرو تكست مسج، التكست مسج مش هيتسحب الفلوس الا مجرد الابروفل ان المبلغ بالكامل وصل لل 500 جنيه. يعني مش هدفع انا تكست مسج معناها ان الفلوس خلاص راحت، لا. اول ما توصل الرقم 500 جنيه دايركت على طول بيروح الاوردر للشركه. الشركه بتيجي بتعمل عمليه الانستولمنت للموضوع. انا جاست مانيتورنج.
مين هيدي الاوردر بقى للشركه؟
الويب سايت.
اوكي.
How could you sustain that?
احنا هنعمل ريتينشن تاكتكس. احنا قبل كده انا عملتها قبل كده بحيث ان احنا هنعمل الكونسيومر اللي موجود عندي هعمل له نظام ريورد سيستم، هعمل له دايما هخلي وهعمل كومبيتيشن بين المناطق، هعمل كومبيتيشن بين الشوارع، كل ده على اساس ان انا اجيب الموضوع سستينبل ويكبر معايا. وطول ما المشاكل موجوده اعتقد الموضوع
عايز حد يدعي لي يقول له ربنا يزود
زي بيقول لك
بتاع حفوي
Our next
كتر مشاكل
finalist is Sharif Negi Yaqub, finalist number 4.
Hello everyone, my name is Sharif and I'll be presenting to you Madad. This is Fatma. Fatma is a 6-year-old girl. She lives in Giza. Most Egyptians would look at this picture and say Fatma needs clothes, Fatma needs water, shelter, maybe even gifts. But here at Madad, we look at this picture and think otherwise. We believe Fatma's house needs better infrastructure. We believe Fatma needs access to healthcare, and we think she needs better access to education so she can have better opportunities than her parents. The problem is there are thousands of NGOs offering just that, but there's no formal system for them to communicate with donors. They don't have the capabilities to market their causes, nor the fundraising capabilities to fund these projects. On the other hand, donors don't even know these NGOs exist, and they just don't trust them with their donations and how they're going to be spending them. Madad is trying to resolve just that. We want to create an online platform that connects donors with NGOs by fundraising for them through donation channels and marketing their causes through social media to have informal accountability over the philanthropic sector. We will generate revenue and be financially sustainable through our 3% service fee, and we achieve cost recovery by the 4th year. We're actually proud to announce that we will be launching our platform in this Ramadan 2013, and we invite you all to crowdfund for us and support us on Indiegogo.com in May. And when we launch the campaign, we'll let you know. Behind that, there's a team of well-accomplished and experienced individuals across all aspects of the value chain in technology, mobile payment solutions, and NGO management, photography, CSR and communication strategies, and myself consulting and NGO management experience. What is common between all of us, despite our various diverse backgrounds, is that we actually have a dream. We have a dream of a better Egypt, better Egypt for all of us, and definitely for Fatma, because she definitely deserves that kind of Egypt. Thank you.
من زمان من ايام زمان. So ليه انديجوجو؟ ليه مش في مصر يعني؟
So we want to crowdfund for our fundraising.
Yeah.
And we haven't found investors that are interested in our business because they are waiting for more substantial returns, and social businesses aren't very common in Egypt. So we've decided that we will crowdfund for the crowdfunder, and Indiegogo is the best platform to do so online.
طيب سؤال تاني، انت عارف انه مفيش قوانين بتضبط موضوع الجمعيات الاهليه والان جي اوز يعني مفيش شفافيه بمعنى اصح، انه انت احنا مش عارفين المعلومات اللي انت قلتها في الاول، كام جمعيه تقبل فلوس من مين، ما بتقبلش فلوس من مين، تشتغل في اي مجال. اتكلمت مع الوزاره مثلا وزاره السوشيال سوليداريتي وحاجات.
We have sent many letters to the Ministry of Solidarity, Social Solidarity and the Ministry of International Cooperation, and they have wanted to see us on many occasions, but it was never that successful. But at the end of the day, there are currently fundraising consultants that do work with NGOs and doing exactly what we do, but offline.
Isn't this the key يعني that when you send a letter مرة واثنين وثلاثة, isn't this the key معاهم مفتاح معاهم صح للوزارة؟
I think when they see that
الدعم الدولي
when they see that there's enough brand equity that we have on social media and that everybody's liking our posts that are actually donating to our projects and helping it to achieve what it wants to achieve, they will start listening to us and saying.
What is the difference between you and what Dr. واحد من الناس yeah what is the difference between you and what do you do different than what he does?
So first of all, we don't deal with charity. Okay, it's only sustainable development. So we are adherent to the UN Millennium Development Goals. So it has to be addressing a development goal that's outlined in the UN's plans. It's number one. Number two, we are online. So we are targeting people that want to make a difference and they don't know how to. They want to contribute and they're not relying on the prominent figures they see on TV, and they actually want to see how their money is being spent and the impact that's generated. And this is why not only will we promote their projects through social media and making mini documentaries of each project, but as soon as somebody donates, you will actually see the impact of each project and get updated on a monthly, if not weekly basis of what the project is actually achieving on the ground.
لو انا دفعت لك $1 على Indiegogo, are you sure that you're going to be able to cash it from us?
Yes.
Say.
So we are looking for a partner, even here in the US, to make sure that people first of all trust us, because we are under investment.
ممنوع.
Why?
ممنوع.
But there has been Egyptian organizations that are funded through Indiegogo already, even documentaries. So we will adopt the same.
This NGOs?
We are not an NGO. We are a company under investment.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Now, part of the organizations that you mentioned, non-profit, many of them are not actually doing a lot of work on the ground. Would you have any kind of process to, due diligence process or process to create some trust in the receiving organization?
Yes. So one of our team members, her name is Sarah Sayed, and she's had experience with over 100 NGOs in half of Egypt's governance. And we are relying on her direct network initially. And we already have contacts across the 6 development goals that we're focusing on. So the first criteria for due diligence is that they actually have a sustainable development goal. Then they have to share with us a plan, what the project is, what it aims to achieve, and a timeline. And then we will look at these plans and see if it actually makes sense and compare it to other projects that we have either seen before or know people that have worked on. And then they will be accepted and put on our platform, and they have to commit to reporting to us on a regular basis their achievement, and if they don't, we might not give them the full amount.
What is the actual number of your team, the current and the future? And are they living in Egypt or are they living in?
So I'm the only one living here. I'm doing my MBA at the Wharton School. So it's just a 2-year program, and we'll go back for sure, back to Egypt. And then there's other 4 people, and they're all based in Egypt. So the current model that we will be 5 people. We are going to have at least 2 full-time equivalency. So this means that there can be 2 people that are part-time, someone that's full-time, but our team will grow from the first year of 10 people, and if we go as planned, in 10 years we might reach 50 people as well. And the majority of our resources will be fully deployed across the projects to cover the projects in terms of filming and videoing their progress.
Finalist is finalist number 5, Gibra Rania Salah.
Good morning, my name is Rania. I'm the founder of Gibra, and I'm going to speak about this. I was part of a competition, and this competition was continentally divided, like Africa, North America, South America, Asia. And then one day I found out they just introduced a new region called Middle East and North Africa, taking Egypt out of Africa. And as Lama was saying, like, we're having problems in the Nile Basin and how we're treating the Africans out of our region. So I decided to just I decided to just make a stand and dress in something that might really give an African feel. This weird thing, like between the Libya and the dress, having an African woman on. She's not only African, but she's also a woman that was a slave. But now she's here. She's here presenting. So it was not only a political stand. It's how also women have reached. It's not only that. It's an Egyptian hand-woven cotton, employing women in Abbasiyah. I'm sure it's not labor abusive. It's the raw material Egyptian. It's free. Like I feel like I really like to feel free. So it's like it's like the side, the back is like the front. It doesn't have the same length.
So it's all like kind of representations of whom I am. I don't have to wear something that like is standardized like everyone. So these are kind of the values we're trying to promote. We are a social enterprise to revive Egyptian handicrafts and help Egyptian artisans market their products and come up with new designs. How we do it is through two specific lines after researching the craft sector in Egypt and traveling all over and learning about different crafts, and after also learning about the market in the US and Europe through different trips and trade fairs. We are focusing on the exclusive crafts to Egypt and Egyptian patchwork, mother of pearl, and different embroidery. And we're having two lines of home decor items using Egyptian Egyptian palm tree wood that's newly introduced to reduce the cost instead of the imported wood, and also having a small line of embroidered tops, not fancy like those, but just simple tops embroidered by Egyptian women in Sohag, Siwa, and Sinai in a modern, edgy look. We are a group of designers of German University Cairo and Applied Art School of Haiwan University, as well as the artisans community in Sohag, Siwa, Sinai, and Cairo, and Minya, and as well as photographers and website designers. Because our online platform is going to be, we're going to be selling online, and the profit is going to be going to fund community service development projects in the artisans community, like after school programs and women empowerment programs. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for your presentation and for your project. We wish you best of luck. But what's the difference between you and Azza Fahmi? This is number one. Number two, if you consider yourself either competing or the same as Azza Fahmi, how would you consider your project is social?
Okay, that's it? Okay. First of all, Azza Fahmi is a jewelry designer. I'm not working in jewelry. Okay, Azza Fahmi is also having other lines, you mean, but it's mainly jewelry. She's targeting niche markets. We're not targeting niche markets. As I said, we have no money. Like, we're starting from like low capital profit. We're targeting Facebook users, young people, and our lines are going to be affordable kind of products. Like the tops, I'm targeting the tops are going to be simple tops, only a small part that's embroidered. It's going to be sold online through a cash upon delivery online sale. So we're targeting actually the young people in Egypt. We're focusing on the local market, and then we're going to expand. So it's a totally different market. And newlyweds for the home decor item line. It's totally different. And you said the social part? What did you
said it's a social enterprise.
Of course, because the profits are going to be funding the community service programs in the artisans community. It's also about the cultural diversity. Like when you're investing in identity, you're empowering people socially and economically. You're creating jobs in people. People don't have to immigrate to Cairo to work. We're creating jobs in people in ENA and in Sohag, women marginalized, working from home. These are all values that of a social perspective.
Some of them. Okay, you have done presumably enough market research. How could you believe that this would be sustained?
It's going to be sustained because it's the market is there, the designers are there, the producers are there. It's for profit. Our business model is simple. It's an online sale.
For profit?
It's a for profit, yes. And then
you said no profit.
No, the profit is going to generate. It's going to fund community service programs in the artisans community. We're a company. I'm a registered company. So it's a for-profit company, and the money is going to fund programs or to create new generations of artisans and artist communities, and to fund after-school programs.
I have a question. So how far are you in the development of the plan?
Yes, now we're in the prototyping. We're in the prototyping phase. We already have the wood for the home decor line. We have the wood supplier in Minya. and we have the designers who came up with nice designs, and we know the artisans we're going to work in, the wood and the mother of pearl and the patchwork, and now our designers are spending time in the artisans' workshops to make sure the prototypes are going to be the quality we want, and then we're going to be doing a testing phase where we're testing the products by exhibiting in small places or through friends and networks or doing focus groups, and then we're going to start working.
Two questions. First is how many people are impacted as part of this right now, and what are the scalability potential to do that? And the second one is how much money do you need, and what are you going to do with it?
Until now, we just buy from artisans. So until now, I cannot say we've already impacted lives and changed lives. We didn't do that yet. But to employ women in Sohag, working from home, and the wood people, the palm tree wood people in قرية القياد مركز العدوى في المنيا, they are mostly people coming back from Libya and Saudi, and they are really happy working with wood, and we're going to be the first. We are the first users of this newly introduced palm tree. It has only introduced 4 months ago, and we're the first users of it. This is for the wood and for the women embroidered in Sohag and Minya, and also the mother of pearl and patchwork crafts and craftsmen in Cairo. You had another question? Scalability? We're not seeking money. We're mainly seeking technical assistance, marketing expertise, digital marketing, design is the key. The seed funding, I've already received some seed funding. I've won competitions supported by UNEP and UNDP, and have small seed fund, but I can manage with the seed fund and the network around me.
You don't think that this idea has been introduced before, and there's a lot of people who feel?
No.
What makes you feel that you might succeed?
It's always in our training we were talking about it's always about the sizzle, not the stick. There are so many people in Egypt trying to save the craft, because it's actually the guy, the mother of pearl guy I'm dealing with, is the 4th generation. It's a very well established craft, and yet last year he had 25 as highly skilled labor. This year he's only having 10. So no, it's all about the design. No one invested in design before, and we're focusing on the traditional craft that no one has.
Finalist number 6.
Good morning, everybody. Unemployment is a very pressing problem now in Egypt. It is touching the lives, especially of the underprivileged. It has caused the rise of many negative cultural practices in our country, such as taharrush, tasbit, baltaga. Did you know that unemployment has reached 13% in Egypt now? Did you know that there are more than 1,000 regions are considered slums in Egypt? Did you know that there are 17 million people who live in the slums and rising? My involvement with unemployment comes from my background as a university professor. I have seen graduates that end up jobless, a lot. The team also includes other university professors and people with expertise, administrative expertise, financial expertise, and expertise in NGOs. One of the very different solutions for these problems is to establish mashghals, or manufacturing units in many underprivileged neighborhoods. This mashghal would be sponsored by companies who are involved in CSR, and it is sustainable by part of the profit. Why is it different? Because it goes to the source of the problem. It is established in the neighborhood itself. It provides small local economies, and the mashghal will provide the trainings as well as the cultural educational programs. The market size is huge because Egypt has an untapped resource, which is the workforce of 27 million. The business model is simply to identify, to connect, to manage, and finally to impact. Identify meaning identifying the regions, the viable employees that we are going to use in these neighborhoods, and the companies. Connect meaning to connect the companies with these employees, manage training programs, manage cultural awareness programs to change many of these negative things in our society, and the impact would be the long-term development of these regions. We spoke to people working in this field, such as Fathat Khair and Education for Employment, and we're in the process of speaking to the Export Council for Ready-Made Garments, because this will minimize the technical risks, and because we are thinking of starting with the easy skills of the ready-made garments. This project deserves your support, and thank you, and I thank the NEGMA organizers.
I'm not sure I understand, where are you again in the cycle of, did you launch, have you started?
Not yet. We're in the very early cycle, which is the identify process of the locations and the companies that are willing to participate. Also negotiating incubation process.
Can you tell me a little bit about incubation?
Incubation, I've talked to people in Nahdat al-Mahrusa, but we haven't reached anything yet. But this is a good way to start while the registration takes place, because I know it takes a long time.
What is your target age and what's your target type?
Of the people who are going to be working in the Mashghal?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm thinking of women and men who are jobless right now. The age can vary from, let's say, 18 to even 45, as long as they can learn the easy skills of the hemming and sewing. And
have you done any statistics to know how many?
The statistics that I have are the number of the slums and the people who are living in there. But more statistics are going to be done once the exact regions are identified, because we're going to go and survey these regions, count the number of people who are ready to participate, and this will provide us a possible estimate.
Don't you think the word or the name Mashghal is a bit deceiving for those type of people?
Can you explain a little bit more?
Deceiving, the name Mashghal.
Why is it deceiving?
Don't you think so? Like for the type of people that are coming and the type of profession that you're gonna train them or educate them. Why did you use the word Mashghal?
Mashghal is first of all from the word shoghl, meaning work. But Mashghal doesn't simply mean a few women who are sitting and knitting. No, Mashghal includes several kinds of manufacturing. It's a Mashghal, yani you're working in this small manufacturing unit, whether it's plastic, whether it's sewing clothes.
What kind of resources or support do you need? What's the most important support that you need? What are you going to do?
Okay, we need financial support, we need the technical support. We are sort of negotiating it from the Council of Ready-Made Garments. We need, and the team is growing so far, so whenever the need rises, there is a new team member that joins. And we'll be counting on a lot of volunteers as well. We've received some, but also more volunteers are more. So I'm expecting for the first phase, which is the phase of renting a place in, let's say, 3 or 4 regions, and registering and having a website and all of these things, I'm expecting something like $26,000.
What is the hierarchy of your team? For example, logistics, follow-up, inspection, what's the hierarchy?
Okay, it's a very early process, so far we have agreed that there is small, the management will be between 2 people, me and another person called Sameh, also with experience NGO, and a person dealing with the finances. That's for the management, but then if it's more of a matching and outsourcing organization. So whenever we need somebody for the trainings, we know of a lot of places who provide technical trainings. We know of a lot of places who going to provide other services whenever needed.
Have you been in touch with the people that have been through the same type of work, like Mohammed Sobhi and those people that are working on the slums areas in Egypt? Have you been in touch with them, talked to them?
Okay, we've been in
You
touch.
mentioned one person only.
No, actually there are three things, and others. In touch with Fathet Khair, that's an NGO that works with women in Muqattam, and they do handicrafts. I've known about their experience. And there is also Tawasul, worked in the slums community school. There is education for employment, but they have workshops for university graduates to prepare them for the workforce. There are also INIT that works in Qina, development in Qina, and this export council for ready-made garments. They work in Suhag in similar thing called Waziftak Jambi Beitak, but they're not working in Cairo, and we're thinking of first focusing our efforts in Cairo.
What do you think that's going to be so unique in this, even though that there are lots of people who are working on the same area?
Okay, there are a lot of people who are working, but they're working on unemployment. The unique is it's in the place itself, and it teaches, develops the space itself. Thank you very much.
These spaces,
فير يعني.
لا وبعدين الجت لاج اصلا قتلنا كلنا.
تفتكر راح ينام شويه؟
انا بقول كده برضه. ضلم يا ابني، ضلم النور كله في مكانه.
Okay, our next finalist is Sharif Inawi, finalist number 7, Takari.
I dream of an Egypt that ranks amongst the 10 top sustainable communities in the world. We're not that far off. My name is Sharif Inawi, and together with 4 other team members, all Egyptian academics and professionals, we came up with Clean Tech Arabia. Let me start by confirming that this is not cleaning detergent. Clean Tech Arabia is in fact a foundation. We're aiming at advancing the practice of clean technology in the Arab world, and especially Egypt. That's where we started. But what is Clean Tech Arabia? What is Clean Tech? Clean Tech is any technology that improves your quality of life. It's not just environmental, and I won't use that word again, but it's anything that improves your quality of life. Think of a solution to agricultural waste, ashros. How big of an impact would that make? Think of a small app like Biolek, something that helps with dealing with traffic congestion. But what we're trying to do is think of bigger solutions. How can we connect people? So again, while we're thinking, the house you live in, the apartment you live in, if it was able to generate its own electricity, how awesome would that be? If it's able to match what you're consuming, you won't have to pay electricity bills again. That's big impact. Is that too much for Egypt? I don't think so. In fact, what if I tell you that that house I'm speaking about was designed by a team at the university, the American University had an Egyptian team. It won a competition in 2012 in Madrid. What was the problem? They had a problem seeking funding. They wanted to create a prototype to prove that it actually worked. So what happened here is that we have a lot of organizations working in Egypt on this exact project. Hundreds and hundreds of them. But what the problem is you have the organizations, you have investors, and inventors. Sometimes they don't see each other. What we're trying to do is build a suite of tools that will help them see each other. And hopefully create a way for experts from abroad to help them. We needed a catalyst, and that was our website. We can't just stay on the ground and use the website, and that was crowdsourcing. We needed a website to crowdsource. That website was an online platform to connect people. It was also a common place for people to see data, ideas, look at projects. This is also one of our revenue tools. What I invite you to do is to visit this website. Through your conversations, talk about it. Talk about ideas that you included. And please talk to me because we need help with financing, we need help with ideas, we need help with connections. Thank you.
Question. NGO, right?
Not yet.
About to.
Yes.
NGO. Egyptian based.
Yes. If you're asking about the team,
yeah.
Two of us are based in Egypt. We all graduated from the University of Toronto, Canada. I still live there along with 2 other members.
Right. But again, it's the same question about funding and crowdfunding because it is not legally allowed yet in Egypt. So somebody has to work with the government to change the rules. Do you know this? Are you working on this?
Absolutely, and we're not doing crowdfunding. We're only doing crowdsourcing for ideas. Let me quickly walk you through the example of that house.
Yeah.
How would it have worked differently?
Yeah.
So the students had this idea. What they would do is they would pitch it on our website. Eventually, someone like me who's living abroad might say, you guys have a great idea, but you need to tweak something about it. It's not scalable, it's not cheap. It won't fit Egypt. So that's something that might happen. But the more important part is when the investors come in and check the website, because we have profiles for all of them. And that's where they hook up. After that, we want to accelerate this process, because the website is just a catalyst. So we're taking it offline, and afterwards it's a project on the ground. It's a regular venture capitalist kind of move. It's not, we're not doing it on the website.
And the target place is Egypt, right?
It's Egypt is where we're starting, but because we realize a few of the risks associated with being in one country and the similarities between the countries, so we're expanding to other Arab countries as well.
Oh, that's why you call it Green Tech area.
That is why.
The value of a network like this depends exponentially on the number of people that are using it. So how are you planning on targeting the initial crowd to make it of enough value? And the second part is, you just connect people, or do you do something to activate those network connections?
Maybe I should tell you what stage we're at as well. Right now, we've been on this idea for about a year now, and we have developed a website. It was an Egyptian company that created the website, and it's online. We haven't launched officially yet. But what we've done over the past 5 months is we created a core group of 40 users that we know in person, and they've interacted. They've been putting news on websites and the central place where you can look for news, and they have been telling us what worked and what didn't, and we've been improving the website based on that. And that was our idea of making sure that if take-up doesn't happen, that we have somehow sort of a strategy, and now we do. So what we're doing is we have a few of our features that are by invitation, even through creating profiles, and that means that these people are people we know in person through our network. They're organizations that we're collaborating with, and that's how we create traffic on the website. We also asked the company that created the website to create markets they carried out market research for us, and their estimate is that for $30,000 worth of online advertising and offline advertising, we can generate 45,000 visits a year.
who are your different stakeholders and what initiatives did you do with them?
Our stakeholders in terms of the organization or what
the stakeholders,
what our operations
and the people.
So they're mainly our silos right here. So these are the people. Our main stakeholders are the big players, the investors, they're entrepreneurs and inventors, and sometimes they're different. They're students at schools because these are wasted opportunities if we use them. There are any supplier. I was just talking with you yesterday about connecting with the Sweden. So companies that provide supplies that could help in creating these products. And we're planning on having connections with them because we're hiring a content manager and also someone to drive this kind of thing. And that's how we're managing our stakeholders. Maybe I'll speak a bit about what we plan to do with the projects, because it's not all on the website. Within 1 year, we plan on having one pilot project. So I'll tell you that this worked, this is technology. Within 2 years, we plan to have 3 more. And the reason we're not going that big at first is because the website on its own is going to generate a lot. But in addition to that, we want to put all our efforts into making sure that the model works for the first and the second year.
How could you be so sure that it could be sustained?
One part of it is my belief in the people and crowdsourcing. I believe personally that it works. But when it comes to reality, what we're trying to do through that first year is measure impact. Is it going to work through the website, from the website? Is it going to work from end to end? Is it going to work from the website all the way to implementing the project? So when that happens, I'll tell you it will definitely work. But it's a crowdsourcing model that we've seen happen multiple times.
Our next finalist is finalist number 8, Educate Me, Yassine Hill. Our next finalist is finalist number 8, Educate Me, Yassine Hill.
In October 2010, my husband Mohammed told me a statement that forever changed my life. He told me, Yasmin, dream big. I can see these children in a couple of years from now standing on the stage with hundreds of people uploading for them, and this is not going to be so far away. And in reality, a year and a half later, these children were standing right there on the stage of the Opera House, receiving their International Child Film Festival Award for a cartoon project that they have made. Now you might be thinking, who are these children? And what type of experience have they been through in order to make them reach that sort of an achievement? These children were 10 children coming from an underserved area called the Kunaisa, next to Giza, average age of 9 years old. And they had been working for over a month on that cartoon project, spending almost 40 hours each, out of their own will, out of their own free time, not even knowing that this project can qualify for an international competition. And eventually, what happened was, because they wanted it so bad, this project ended up winning and made them proud and made them represent Egypt. Now you might be thinking to yourself, why didn't we feel this way about things that we wanted when we were small back then? Or why didn't we feel this way about school? For example, in my case, I used to celebrate my injuries and my diseases when I was back to school because it kept me back at home. Now allow me to introduce you to myself and my organization. My name is Yasmin Hilal. I'm the founder and executive director of Educate Me, which is a non-profit foundation that was established 3 years ago to try to redefine education and develop this type of education system that was entirely relevant to children's needs and built around their desires. So how we do that is that we ask the children what they want to learn and provide them with a platform where they can choose whatever learning experiences they want to go through, without forcing them into a certain direction or dictating that because we're authority or because we're adults. And so far, we've established a community development center in Kunaisa, where we have been serving 60 children. The 10 who won the award were part of them. And over the past 2 years, what we aspire to achieve is obtaining a scientific proof of concept for our learning model, and then seeking accreditation as a school that can scale up nationally and hopefully reach this third of our population who are below 14 years of age, and hopefully my own children included. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to put your hands in our hands and help us support these children in order to expand beyond the 60 children we have now and reach 300 by the end of the year. The one child going to Educate Me Center for 400 hours of learning costs us $300 a year. So I invite you all to support the initiative if you believe in it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You said the group of children that you first chose, they were 9 years old, the average age?
Yes, they were from 7 up to 13, and so the average was 9 years old.
Okay, so you said you try to educate them, you ask them what they want to learn. How could you trust kids this age to tell you what they want to learn?
Well, trust is natural. So children, the way they learn how to talk and how to walk is the same way they learn how to read and how to write. And research has found that children learn most out of their curiosity and not out of external rewards, and this has been scientifically proven. So what we do is basically, we ask them what they want to learn and we hold them accountable and responsible for their learning process. And then we see what happens throughout. So what we have seen with the kids is that when the desire comes from inside, they come to us and say, we don't want to play, we want to learn maths. And you might not expect that children that age do this, but they actually do.
The target group are the poor area or anybody?
So far, it's the underprivileged areas until we develop our scientific proof of concept. But then, when we get our accreditation, we want to expand to also include privileged children, and we have actually tried this sometimes with 2 different international schools, and it worked very well.
So Yasmin, you're competing with schools?
So far, I'm not competing with anyone, but on the long run, when we become accredited, we are going to become a school.
So just draw the scenario for me. I'm 9 years old, and I would like to actually learn music. And I would come to you and run away from the school, or what would I do?
Okay, right now what happens is that we're doing this on non-formal basis, so the children come to our center 8 hours a week, next to going to their public schools. And we also support their public schools right now, okay?
So I come to you during school time?
No, you come, we have a schedule that fits, right now as non-formal, it fits around their schedule. So we have sessions in the morning, sessions in the evening, and our attendance rate is below 75%, guaranteeing that it does fit their schedule. But in the future, when it becomes a school, then the kids only go there.
Right.
So it becomes part of, it becomes part of the system now.
In terms of fundraising or trying to get the funds to enroll 300 students, what if you have more than what you have? What's your internal capacity constraints?
Sorry, can you come again?
If you need X number of dollars to enroll 300 students by the end of the year, what if you get double that amount or triple the amount? What are the internal capacity constraints?
Okay, so far it's research. So right now we have 70 people in the organization, 4 full-timers, 1 part-timer, and the rest of us are volunteers. And right now the sort of the bottleneck is with the research, and this is why we're partnering with AFC on opening a club there to have 20 researchers and a faculty advisor that will sort of accelerate our research in order to allow us to scale, because we really care about the depth, so we don't just want to go out there and do things that we're not sure about.
How are you maintaining your financial sustainability
So
now
far,
and in the future?
Okay, so far over the past 3 years, 60% of our income has been coming from donations, 20% CSR and 20% self-fund through selling this program to international schools and also selling personal development programs within our foundation, because we have expert trainings in our training and development center. And what we plan to do over the next 5 years is increase that 20% of self-fund to reach 100% by selling this same product to people who are privileged. And it was actually a request coming out of the people themselves.
Question, what do you need from NEGMA?
Good question. What I need is help with productizing the learning experiences, so we can reach financial sustainability afterwards. I'm not really after incubation if this is what the acceleration program is about, because we are established. But that's the point where we would need help, and with networking as far as research is concerned, and also productizing with financial sustainability.
Why did you use the name Educate Me? Why didn't you use علمني مثلا؟
Why did I use Educate Me and not?
علمني حاجة بالعربي.
هو اسمه علمني.
هو اسمه
بالعربي اسمه علمني. هو the logo over there هو بالعربي علمني بالإنجليش Educate.
Hey.
Our next finalist is going to be finalist actually number 10, not number 9. Finalist number 9, she's going to be our last one presenting because she's in Egypt and she's going to be presenting via Skype. So I'd like to introduce you to finalist number 10, Alexandria 2024, Yahya Sidi. She's in Egypt.
Hi. You all know by now what is Alexandria 2024, right? So, who wants to see an Egyptian city hosting the Olympics? I'm going to make this with my team, this dream come true. And how are we going to do that? Not by wishful thinking, but because this think tank of visionary professionals did its job. A part of us studied the Olympic case quite extensively and tailored it to the Alexandrian context, and we made solutions for it, totally alternative solutions. The other part looked was concerned with development of the city and how to boom tourism, how to make it attractive and put it again on the world touristic map. But not because we did our job, that means that we can get the Olympics. But when it comes to 2024, we have a golden chance. As I said yesterday, yes, we can. And why is that? Because the International Olympic Committee itself declared it quite clearly many times that they want to hand this to an African nation. So, if we let them hear what they want to hear, and let them see, give them a plan and make them understand that Alexandria is the best African city to host this, we have this golden chance. We can do it. In the process of making Alexandria ready to be a candidate applying for the Olympics, there's going to be a global development of every facet of daily life in Alexandria. This will include traffic solutions, infrastructure, preservation of the old city, make it touristically booming, of course, and okay. And I think that this is the way, whether we're going to get the Olympics or not, or the Olympics are just the cherry over the cake. So we still have a cake, and this is getting Alexandria as a world-class city by doing this process. So please lend me your support and credibility for this vision and vote for Alexandria 2024, because this is not a dream, it's a revolution.
Now, assuming that to do this you need to have a major role from the government to be part of this, so what is your plan on how to involve the government?
Actually, this all started in 2011 when I decided to take the reins myself and not to leave it for the government or for the National Olympic Committee. There was only 30 days left for to apply for the 2020 Summer Games, and nobody did anything. So I started this 30-day campaign by gathering the crowds first and getting public support. I went to TEDx, I had a talk, and then the newspapers wrote about it. I was on the news, I was on satellite national TV programs. Afterwards, I addressed the Prime Minister cabinet, it was Hassan Sharaf at that time, and I got extremely interested in it. I even got the mayor of Alexandria as one of my team in my campaign. So he was a professor who worked in Grenoble, an Olympic city in France, and he understood exactly the benefit which how are we gonna profit from this. And he's a professor of economy, so he understood quite well how we're gonna, he understood our plan and how he's gonna, as a governor, make use of it. For example, the Olympic city, how he's gonna we're going to make it with foreign budget, and at the same time we're going to give it after 1.5 months of the Olympics to Shabab and Kharijin and so on and so on. So we did this in only 1 month campaign. If we can achieve this in 1 month, so when we have this chance again in 2015, because we couldn't meet the deadline, we have time now, and when the political unrest goes away, then we can really apply for 2015 for the 2024 games, and I guess we have a very good chance with the government, whoever, حتى our government بتاع دلوقتي. So it's يعني completely clear, واضح البروجكت بالنسبة لنا كويس يعني.
خلاص هو قرر.
Do you have a complete plan, scheme plan, process plan for this?
Yes.
Elaborate more. Elaborate.
هنعمل ايه؟ تايم سكادجول يعني ولا؟
process.
اوكي. احنا عندنا بلان ازاي احنا هنخش الاولمبياد اللي هو الاولمبيك كيس ستادي نفسها يعني، وبلان ازاي هنديفلوب الكسندريا. دول حاجتين يعني تو اكسس اوف ذا بروجكت. علشان لو ما خدناش يعني الاولمبياد بس دخلنا وابلايد از كانديديت، نبقى احنا في نفس الوقت قدرنا نحسن المدينه ونوصلها لمستوى عالمي يخلي اللي عايش فيها عنده كواليتي اوف لايف نفس الستاندرد بتاع التورست اللي جاي يعني يتفرج على المدينه. البلان العادي بالنسبه للاولمبيك كيس ستادي هو ان في 2015 هنابلاي، وهو ده النظام المتبع العادي يعني، بنابلاي وعشان الابلكيشن دي بنحتاج بس 2 signatures، واحده من المير اوف ذا سيتي ودي اذر من الان او سي هيد الان او سي كوميتي اللي هي اللجنه الاولمبيه المصريه اللي موجوده في مصر يعني. يبعتوها جنيف، وفي خلال ال6 شهور لازم نجيب جفرمنتال ليتر من البرايم مينستر اللي هو فيه سبورت للموضوع الكبير ده، وزي خطاب ضمان، ندفع خطاب ضمان، ونبدا في خلال السنتين اللي بعديها نعمل بروجكت صغيره او نبين ان احنا هنبتدي في فيجن كبيره متخططه ان احنا ازاي هنقدر نستوعب هذا الميجا مونومنتال ايفنت، لان كميه الزائرين اللي بيجوا فيه بيكون اكتر من هو اكبر ايفنت بيحصل على الكره الارضيه. فيعني كميه الزائرين بتبقى كبيره جدا، وقعدنا نعمل حلول بقى غير تقليديه يعني. فور اكزامبل اسكندريه ما فيهاش الطاقه الفندقيه اللي تستحمل هذا البتاع خالص، ف عملنا حلول زي ممكن نعمل نخلي المعموره مثلا والعجمي والساحل الشمالي نعمل له ستاندردايزيشن للفلل والحاجات اللي هي فيها، علشان السائح يلاقي وقت يعرف ان احنا عندنا طاقه فندقيه تستحمله، وده حصل حتى في اولمبياد قبل كده. Thank you very much. I hope you like it.
Okay, our next and last finalist is finalist number 9, Hala Wahda Hiba Hosni. And we have her here on Skype right now.
Eva, you're on. Can you hear us? Okay, please go ahead. Everyone is listening.
Okay, thank you. أنا اسمي أنا كلام واحد برجع كلام واحد شوي كلام مهم يبقى أفضل كلام واحد. أنا بقيت فترة اشتغلت وعملت تطورات ليها تبرعات في الفترة دي من خلال بعض الإحصائيات كده اللي شفناها من مركز تعبئة والإحصاء المصري عن معدلات الفقر في مصر. كانت المعدلات بتزيد بصورة مش طبيعية من 11 مليون في سنة 2000 لحوالي 20 مليون في سنة 2001، 9 مليون في سنة واحدة. المعدل كان غريب، وخصوصا لما سمعنا ان عدد الجمعيات الخيريه حوالي 30,000 جمعيه. يعني المشكله مش في عددنا، المشكله في دورنا اللي هي في انجلترا، والتنميه التبرعات بتاعتها لازم يكون بطريقه انوفيتيف اكتر من كده. مرة قريبة ليها كتاب بتقول فيها if I look at the mass أو never ask if I look at the man as well. من هنا كانت فكرتنا في حلقة واحدة إن إحنا بنركز إن إحنا بنعمل ويب سايت بيجمع فيه التبرعات لحالة واحدة بس، نحط فيه بريد فيها و فوتوز للحالة قبل وبعد التبرع، وكمان بنحط فيه الحالات اللي بنجيبها من NGOs الصغيرة اللي بنعمل لها ماركتنج. متهيألي دلوقتي الوقت المناسب لنوقع حالة واحدة علشان بعد الثورة والأزمة الاقتصادية الحالية عدد كبير من المتابعين قل الجمعيات اللي احنا بنتعامل معاها حاليا بيقولوا لنا، وكمان عدد الحالات زادت. معدلات نجاحنا هنقيسها بعدد الحالات احنا بنقدر نغطيها كل سنه، وكمان عدد التبرعات او كم التبرعات اللي احنا نجمعها. في الحقيقه اكبر تشالنج كان بيواجهنا في الموقع اللي هو البيزنس موديل، يعني ازاي البيمنت سيستم هنجمع ازاي التبرعات، لان دي علشان الوجوه في مصر كانت تشالنج شويه. غيرناها اكتر من مره، دلوقتي وصلنا ان احنا هنخليه بالبوينتس، يعني البيمنت بالبوينتس، بمعنى ان الحاله مثلا بدل ما بتتكلف 1000 جنيه فردا هنخليها بتتكلف 1000 بوينت، وبالتالي المتبرع بدل ما هيتبرع ب 1000 جنيه لا هو هيشتري مننا 1000 بوينت. في الحقيقه ان احنا عايزين نعمل ماركتنج لحاله واحده علشان في طرفين لازم يكونوا متواجدين معانا. اول طرف هو الفولنتير، واللي هنجيبها من الفيسبوك اللي اثبتت احصائيات ان 75% من مستخدمين الفيسبوك في العالم العربي من اللي احنا نتواصل معاهم علشان يتابعوا معانا. اما بالنسبه للدونرز سيرفي صغيره في الناس اللي حوالينا عرفنا ان حوالي 67% مش بيحبوا الفيسبوك علشان التبرع او يعني الانترنت بصفه عامه، بيحبوا اكتر المعارف والاصدقاء اللي عندهم بصوره شخصيه. هنجيبهم او يعني هنتواصل معاهم ونقدر نوصل لهم عن طريق ايفنتس وورد معاهم. انا التيم بتاعنا هيتكون من التكنيكال تيم طبعا الفاينانس والاوبريشنز والماركتنج.
Sorry, Heba, your time is up. Your time is up. We will take questions from the judges, okay?
Okay. شكرا.
شكرا يا هبه، انت سامعانا؟
ايوه سامعه.
اوكي. ليه استخدمتي كلمه حاله واحده؟ يعني الاسم شويه يعني ما هو I don't know، يعني اشرحي لنا ليه استخدمتي كلمه حاله واحده and how attractive you thought it is and why would people donate to that name. I know that they do donate for the aim and the target and objective and everything, but why حالة واحدة؟
اوكي، هو جالنا بطريقة علشان سببين. أول سبب أنا كنت بشتغل قبل كده، أنا بشتغل سوفت وير انجينير، كنت بشتغل في موقع ويب يعني وظيفة اللي هو بيبقى فيه ديلز لوان ديل ات تايم. الحقيقه كان بيبقى فيه اخبار جدا على الوان ديل ده والفيتشر ديل اللي بيكون محطوط في الهوم بيج، فده كده كاي كوميرس اكتيفيتيز وايز. الحاجه الثانيه كان في مره حلقه لعمرو الليثي كانت عن حاله واحده اسمها الحاجه شمعه. بصراحه لما اتعرضت الحاله دي في التلفزيون هزت الناس، والناس كلها كانت حابه تتفاعل. اول لما جاب سيره الست العجوزه الفقيره والمحيط بتاعها الناس كلها تفاعلت عن طريق ان هو يركز بس عن طريق تركز عن الحاله دي وبس. من هنا جت لنا فكره ان فعلا انت تركز عن حاجه واحده بس بتحرك الناس وبتخليهم يتطوعوا اكتر ويحبوا يشاركوا ويتطوعوا اكتر لما يشوفوا حاجه واحده بس. هم اكشلي مش بيعملوا عشان حاجه واحده، هم بيعملوا علشان شريحه من المجتمع اللي شافوها من خلال الحاله الواحده دي.
هبه صح، انا وائل. Thank you for doing this over Skype. It's very difficult اكيد. معنى كده انك تقدري تحلي مشكله 365 حاله في السنه بس، مش كده؟
ان شاء الله.
بس يعني this is the يعني your success is 365 حاله في السنه بس. ولا هتحلي حاله كل يوم ولا 10 حالات كل يوم ولا؟
لا، هو الموضوع بتاعي يعني مش محدد الوقت، يعني قصدي مش فيكسد كل حاله ليها وقت معين، الموضوع فاريبل للحاله، يعني ممكن حاله مثلا تاخد مننا اسبوع، ممكن حاله تاخد مننا 3 ايام على حسب الاماونت وعلى حسب المحتويات بالظبط، يعني الموضوع ما فيهاش فيكس.
How will you financially sustain the operation؟ هل تاخدي نسبة من النقط الموجودة ولا هيبقى ايه الفاينانشال بلان؟
واحنا عندنا 3 مصادر. اول حاجه جزء من التبرع، بمعنى بدل ما يكون مثلا 100 بوينت هيكون 105 في 5% من الدونيشنز. تاني حاجه من الادز، بس دي مش متوقع تكون ليها دخل كتير. تالت حاجه من الفاند ريزنج، ده اول خمس. تاني سنه احنا عندنا افكار عشان نعمل اي كوميرس سيستم، او يعني نجيب المنتجات بتاعت الحالات دي ونقدر نبيعها. ده الجزء الديفلوبمنت من الويب سايت، بس ده هيكون تاني سنه ولسه اندر انفستيجيشن.
طب وايه اللي هيخلي الناس تتعامل مع حاله واحده دونا عن اي جهات اخرى او NGOs اخرى؟
ان احنا هنقدر نقول لهم بالظبط حاجتين. اول حاجه هنوري لهم الحاله دي قبل ما يتبرعوا عامله ازاي، بمعنى ان مثلا لو كان بيت محتاج سقف او مثلا ست في السجن عايزه تطلع مثلا، بنوري اتصال وبنوري البيت قبل التبرع. بعد ما بيتم التبرع بنوري الوصل نفسه اللي هو بتاع المخالفه مثلا ما بين البنين التاجر اللي حصل فعلا، وبنوري في حاله البيت هنوري البيت بعد ما اتبنى، هنوري له صوره حيه للي حصل او قيمه التبرع ده هو اثر فيه.
اتكلمتي مع عمرو الليثي على الموضوع ده، وبعدين بمناسبة كلمة حالة واحدة لعمرو الليثي، هو ما كانش بيقصد انها حالة وبس، هو كان بيقصد ان الحالة بتاع الست دي فعلا كانت فيري كريتيكال وفيري سبيشال، والست دي على فكرة ماتت على طول بعد كام يوم كده بعد ما عرض الحالة بتاعتها.
ده صحيح، ده صحيح.
بس اتكلمتي معاه وحبيتي تاخدي شويه خبراته او مع حد تاني كمان وكده علشان تتاكدي ان الموضوع ده يعني ممكن يكون سستيند، ممكن يكون ماشي صح ولا كده؟
هو بالنسبه هو شخصيا بصراحه او حد من الاعلام كنت عايزه اتواصل معاه من خلال المؤتمر، بس هو اعتذر. بس حاليا احنا عندنا مصادر ثانيه قصدي اعلاميه، احنا وصلنا ديلز مع مصادر في اكتر من جهه في مصر، يعني وانس احنا ما بنبقاش هنعمل ماركتنج من خلالها، يعني هنحط مثلا اي فريمز للموقع بتاعنا فيهم وهكذا.
Thank you everyone. Right now we're going to go ahead and start with the voting process. First of all, our NEGMA coordinators, can you guys raise your hand, the ones with the voting cards? Right here. Okay, very good. Okay. So this is the way it's going to work. Right now, we're going to be passing out the voting cards to each and every one of you in the room. And please don't leave the room until you vote and we collect all the voting cards again. Again, here's what the voting cards look like. So remember,
you want to vote?
Yeah, you guys already have the voting sheets. You guys know. Okay, so here's the voting card. So please remember to write just one number of the finalists that you wish to see to win the final round?
هيسأل هيبقى راسم.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go down the list of the finalists one more time. Yes.
One on each card or three?
Okay, okay. Here, this is the voting card, right? So just write just one number. And make sure you underline the number, so we don't confuse the 6 with the 9. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Until you decide, can I actually borrow your pen?
Okay, so I'm going to go down the list again.
Thank you.
So finalist number 1, we have it on the screen, Ken with Amina Sai. Finalist number 2, Idea, that was about the RFID with Khalid al-Mahmoud. Finalist number 3, Sharik with Usama Bohari. Finalist number 4, Madad with Sharif Negi Yaqoub. Finalist number 5, Kibra with Rania Salah. Finalist number 6, Mishgal with Arish Ibrahim. Finalist number 7, Clean Tech Arabia with Sharif Inami. Finalist number 8, Educate Me, Yasmin Hilal. Finalist number 9, Hala Wahda, Hiba Hosni. Finalist number 10, Alexandria 2024, Yahya Sigini. So, as you're choosing your number and you're writing it on the card, keep it with you. We'll give you 15 minutes to make your decision, and then we're going to come around and take your cards. So don't leave the room. Yes, go ahead.
Tell us how the scoring works.
Okay, the way the scoring is going to work is that you as an audience count as one judge. So each of our judges, they have a judging rubric. And the judging rubric is a maximum of 50 points. So we have 4 judges, so that's 200 points total, right? So you as an audience count as a judge as well. So you count as 200 points maximum. Don't worry about it. We have a system working it out. Are there any questions? Yes. You only write one number, just the number. Are there any questions? Yes.
عندي تعليق. I have a comment بس. عندي تعليق عايز
عارف انت عايزه انا بقى محتار ما بين الاثنين.
لا ما تختارش، محتار بين قولي وانا
لا لا انا عارف ان انت هتبقى بايظ.
I'm not gonna be biased. قولي
You are biased. شارك.
أنا صراحة ما أعرفش كتير عن شارك. لا
We're gonna come back. We're coming back exactly 1:15.
شارك عايز
1:15.
فاهم شعبي الحي المصري يعني خلاص يعني هو مرضي وانا شايف برضه في الفيلم because I teach politics.
I've talked to you.
لسه والله لسه والله
لا لا
Oh, okay. About what? Oh, right. Yeah. So, no, you guys So, I work on
they come through the school system expecting that his professors are supposed to give them facts to memorize and thinking that break down on exams and that's how they use it. They hit one of my courses and I'm like, no, I'm not going to tell you what you need to know. You're going to have to figure it out yourself. Okay. My wife and I
one school
so recently, like my mother would come and live with us for like 3 to 6 months, and like around and then
yeah, so they are well, they're not really focused. They're focused on. So we've worked with their administrative. What's this? We're working directly with
the mother comes here basically. At least for the next 6 years, because
ده بس انت قلت يعني جيس بوينت هم اوريدي بدأوا يعني خلاص بدأ شغال وهم
I grew up in Maine, which is here in the winter. I was in Hawaii for my PhD and then I